What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto is disowned by his clan council bashing? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. The world is founded on many things. Principles, character, integrity, and more than any other, rumors. Rumors that have branched off the realm of fact and edged into the way of fiction that have many people creating different versions of the truth until the lies cover up what really happens in an important event in history. Such is the case with the Shadow Fox. Many rumors surround this unknown figure, as he is said to be one thing, and something else entirely through someone else. Some call him a sinner, as others call him a saint, and others say he is some kind of creation forged beyond human understanding or control. Though human nature being what it is, anything that is not controlled will be hunted in order to be controlled, and if not, destroyed. Such is the case with the shinobi villages from the elemental countries, who tried to find the Shadow Fox, and convince him through whatever means, by the order of the cages of each village. They had to have this powerhouse entity join their village. Any village that was able to employ the Shadow Fox would achieve untold fame, glory, and the influential clients that would bring all their money to hire the man while the village got most of the money. However, with all the rumors floating around, no one could even trace the Shadow Fox's movements wherever his presence was supposedly reported at the time. And even the great Toad Sanin could find this enigma with his spy network. Yet, after reviewing all the rumors for a good day or two, the Leaf Village had learned that out of all the rumors about the Shadow Fox, the majority about these had one simple fact circled around one fact. The Shadow Fox was spotted in Wave Country on several separate occasions. Hence why the old Genin Team 8 was brought together and were right at the beginning of the Great Naruto Bridge to seek out the Shadow Fox. "Whoa," said Kiba, as he saw the length of the bridge, and heard his faithful dog he was riding on Akamaru bark in agreement at the sight of structure. "It's very impressive. It presents hope, strength, and a chance for this village to grow," said Shino, as he saw the lifeline of Wave Country stretch nearly as far as the eyes could see, and saw Hinata fighting back tears. "It represents Naruto-kun well. He would be proud of it," said Hinata, as she put her hand on the golden plaque, and her tears flowed out like a river while Yuhi Kurenai put a hand on the girl's shoulder. "It's okay, Hinata. You can say all that you want at his grave before we leave here," said Kurenai, as she had spent many months after the news of Naruto's death here in Wave Country comforting Hinata, and the senseis doing the same with the other rookies. Flashback 3 years ago. Genin Teams 8, 9, and 10 were all waiting in the Hokage's office waiting to get some crappy D-ranked mission in order to further increase teamwork. The air around them was the casual, "everything was great and nothing can ruin my life" feel to it, but when Team 7 came in, the mood instantly changed, and the Hokage sensed something was wrong when he saw that Kakashi didn't have his book on hand to read. "Team 7 is here reporting for duty, Hokage-sama. Our mission to Wave Country was a success," said Kakashi, as the Hokage saw the sad, depressed, and pain-filled looks on the Junin sensei along with the other 2 genin behind him. "Wait, 2 genin? Is Naruto-kun here?" said Hinata in a whisper, as she hid behind Shino and Kiba, though she stood up straighter than ever before, causing her chest to puff out more despite the fact that it was covered by her heavy jacket. "Where is Naruto?" said the Hokage, as he felt his heart constricting, his mind quickly coming to the conclusion of what happened, and yet tried to deny it with all the strength he had. He's Uzumaki Naruto is dead, Hokage-sama," said Kakashi, as he let a tear fall down his one eye, and instantly the whole room felt colder than any winter night ever recorded in Konoha's history. "What?" yelled the Hokage, as he leapt over his desk, grabbed Kakashi by his Junin vest, and slammed him into the nearest wall with horror in his eyes that had not been seen by many since his failed attempt at killing Orochimaru years ago. "He's dead, Hokage-sama. It's my fault," said Kakashi, as he told them what happened in Wave Country, the first battle with Zabuza, then the second one that happened a week later with Naruto sacrificing his life to save the apprentice of Zabuza named Haku, and prevented the girl from being killed by the Rikiri aimed for Zabuza that she intended to take in order to save the demon of the mist. "Naruto-kun is dead?" said Hinata, as her mind shut down, and she collapsed onto the ground hard like she had been stabbed in the heart by a katana sword. 2 days later. The Hokage sighed, as he had just made the announcement about Naruto's death to the village, and most of the older generation talking about celebrating soon after. While the younger generation in Konoha were slightly surprised, they stayed silent over the matter, and they would have done so had the old fire shadow not silenced their parents. The old Kage had originally wanted to have Naruto buried in Konoha, but there was no chance of that happening without the grave being defiled, and besides, he had one more major announcement to make that the councils would hate him telling, though it didn't really matter anymore. If they were going to celebrate Naruto's death, then they could do so in spades, and find out just how stupid they were to mistreat the boy. Before I leave you to celebrate Uzumaki Naruto's death, I have more to say concerning him that you will not like, and make you all realize how pathetic this village has become. 12 years ago the Yondaime defeat the Kyuubi by sealing up the demon inside a child, as it was the only way to stop the Kyuubi from causing total destruction. But the Yondaime didn't choose just anyone, and the choice he made cost him dearly, for his dying wish to see the boy as a hero was not honored. That boy was none other than his own son that you hated since he was born. "Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto," said the Sandaime, as he saw the crowd looked shocked into stunned silence. The councils listening were shocked beyond measure, and the shinobi of the village felt time freeze over them. "Boss was like me almost. He was the son of a Kage," thought Konohamaru, as he could not believe Naruto held the Kyuubi, and now learning that very same boy was also the son of the Yondaime too. The Yondaime wanted his legacy to be protected, nourished, and to grow up happy in the village he gave his life for. Instead, the boy had constant attempts on his life, beatings on his own birthday, and his academic instructors saw fit in the beginning to destroy his attempt at being a shinobi, with the exception of one instructor. "I tried to help the boy, but you all had to ruin Naruto's life in the attempts of hurting Kyuubi, or believing he was the fox in human form. So when you go out today to party, have fun, and throw another festival, think about what you are celebrating. Kyuubi's death, or celebrating the death of the Yondaime's son? I know which one you will be choosing," said the Sandaime, as he left the stunned crowd of people, and the younger generation began to argue with their parents over what they did. It would be a long time before the children listened to their parents. A long time. End flashback. "I have so much to say to him. Could I do it alone, Kurenai-sensei?" said Hinata, as she looked at her old sensei, and the woman gave the girl a kind smile before nodding. "Of course, Hinata. Your time with Naruto should be between the two of you," said Kurenai, as she had seen her student come a long way since hearing of Naruto's death, and there were times the Genjutsu mistress thought she would lose the Hyuga in her depression. The poor Hyuga girl had locked herself up in her room, screaming out that she wanted to be alone, and even threatened the branch family with the cage bird seal if they tried to enter. While Hinata had no intention of doing that, the threat itself made almost all of the branch family quite nervous in approaching the girl's room, and it wasn't until later that Hiyashi himself did it. After speaking with her father, Hinata came out looking like a zombie, her tears falling down like a waterfall, and she immediately found herself speaking to her sensei for help. Kurenai had done her best to comfort Hinata, but even then it wasn't enough, and had to seek out Yamanaka Inoichi for help. Even in the Chunin exams, Hinata seemed unstable, as when she faced her cousin Neji in the preliminaries made things even worse, and pushed the girl to brink. The end result had been Hinata being defeated horribly, as Neji put her down, called her weak, and called Naruto weak while saying he was fated to die because he was nothing despite his heritage. However, Hinata did make Neji pay for his victory, and insulting Naruto by doing the one thing no one ever expected her to do. She used the cage bird seal on him before passing out, but the damage had caused Neji considerable amount of pain, and made it known to everyone that Hinata still had some form of strength in her. After that, Hinata changed everything about herself in terms of confidence, skills, and how she treated those that mistreated Naruto. Then soon after came the invasion. Though that in itself was different from what could have happened, as the Sandaime had received information during the month in preparation for the Chunin exam finals from an anonymous source that Konoha was going to be attacked by Suna along with sound. Detailed information of where, when, who, and why were sent to the old cage in order to make him aware that this was no joke. At first, the Sandaime tried to find out who sent this information, but it proved fruitless, and Jiraiya had told him that they should prepare for the worst. Orochimaru didn't know what hit him. Still, the damage to Konoha had been extensive to some degree, and the old man had lost his arm in the fight with Tsunade, needing to take over for him after some convincing by Jiraiya, though no one knows what was said to make the slug princess return. It didn't mean that Tsunade didn't like it, but when she came into office, she did make sure things changed in Konoha despite the council's attempts to solidify their power after the allied invasion failed with the Sandaime now too physically weakened to lead. It was about a year after Tsunade took office did the rumors of a man known as the Shadow Fox appeared. At first, no one paid attention to him, but that changed when he took on missions normally assigned to a squad of a village's Enbu Black Ops, and did it with ruthless efficiency. During the 2 years that passed after that, the Shadow Fox began taking on only the most dangerous of missions, and on occasion ones that helped out one of the elemental countries in need of someone like him. And now here was the old Team 8, having walked all the way to Tezuna's house and seeking the old man's help to possibly find the Shadow Fox. Though considering the way the people of Wave were staring at them with a cold hate, it made the four-leaf shinobi wonder if they would get any help at all, and if so would it be any more than a swift kick in the ass to get out of Wave Country. When Tezuna saw the four of them, he scowled at Team 8, as he had heard all about the leaf treating Naruto like garbage over having a demon sealed inside of him, and done nothing short of mourning him, to make up for their mistreatment of the boy. However, the trade agreement set up between both countries required that the shinobi from each side be given hospitality by a previous client, and this was the only case they had ever done it. So you're seeking the Shadow Fox, huh? Good luck, because that guy is elusive, and if you look at him the wrong way will knock you on your ass, said Tezuna, as he took a swig from his bottle, and was getting drunk at the table. Father, watch your language. Inari will be home soon and I don't want you swearing when he's around, said Tsunami, as she put food on the table that was now bountiful thanks to the bridge being completed 3 years ago, and filled the room with a family scent to it. Mom, Grandpa, I'm home. I just finished my training today said Inari, as he stopped at the sight of the leaf shinobi in the room, and glared hatefully at them. Is this what Naruto-kun went through while living in the leaf? Thought Shino, as he had never had such hate directed at him before, and wondered how Naruto dealt with it. What are they doing here? Said Inari, as he flexed his right hand, and wanted to grab the kunai hidden behind his back. The once weak child of Tsunami was not so weak looking anymore, as he had grown quite a bit in the last 3 years with his hair grown down to his shoulders, wearing clothes that a shinobi in training might wear, and on his right arm was a blue cloth stained with purple spots of what was once crimson blood. Naruto's blood. We are here to find the Shadow Fox in the hopes he will come back with us to Konoha, said Hinata, as she saw the scowl on the boy deepen, and actually snarled at them. Like the Shadow Fox would ever go to Konoha. It's filled with arrogant fools that care only about themselves, said Inari, as he took his plate of food from the table, and went upstairs to eat alone. Inari, I'm sorry. The last time he did that was when Naruto died and wanted to be left alone, said Tsunami, as she saw her son walk up the stairs, and wondered if he was ever going to forgive the leaf. Do you know where Naruto-kun's grave is, Tsunami-san? Said Hinata, as she wanted to pay her respects to the fallen boy, and confessed to him her feelings like she should have done a long time ago. I do. Eat up and then I'll take you to him, said Tsunami, as she saw the girl smile at her, and went back to eating her food. Naruto's grave 15 minutes later. Naruto's grave was made of solid golden sun-colored steel that seemed to shine brightly when sunlight struck the marker during the day and even at night when the moon was out. Surrounding it was 9 smoothly made fox-like tails that signified that Naruto was the vessel for Kyuubi, but in this way it seemed to honor him rather than make him hated, and Hinata had no doubt this would have made Naruto happy in that regard. The marker itself was like a beacon of hope that would forever be remembered and that Naruto would be a constant reminder to all that heroes do exist in all of us. It was a sight Hinata mentally noted that Naruto would never have gotten in Konoha and could see that Wave went all out in terms of money to make this grave one that would be recognized as a hero's grave. Here lies Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. A true hero to Wave Country and forever its favorite surrogate son. It's beautiful, said Hinata, as she stared at the grave, and looked at Tsunami smiling at her before looking at the grave too. Inari comes here to speak to Naruto. It's his way of handling the loss of the only other person aside from his surrogate father that my son ever believed was a hero. Naruto had inspired Inari to fight back against Gato, bringing hope to Wave Country when there was no hope left for us to have. and he helped us believe that we could do anything we put out minds to it, said Tsunami, as she saw Hinata now begin to cry at her words, and saw the Hyuga girl remove her leaf headband before slamming it on the ground. Can I speak to him privately? I want to do this as me and as a shinobi of the leaf, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunami nod before bowing, and leaving the Hyuga heiress to do what she set out to do. You should know Hyuga-san, you are not the only girl that comes here to pay their respects to Naruto, and should you meet her, do not upset her, said Tsunami, as she saw Hinata nod in understanding before leaving, and let the girl have her moment to talk to Naruto. Hinata could understand, as she knew that losing the man that raised her, and the boy that made her feel more than just a tool to someone was very impacting on one's psyche. She also read the report about Haku being the one to bury Naruto, and how she threatened to break Kakashi's arms when he tried to convince her to come with them to Konoha. Hello Naruto-kun. It's me, Hyuga Hinata. I was in your class back at the academy, and I wanted to speak to you for some time now. I was so shy back when we were kids at the academy, as I was so worried over what others thought of me back then, and you come along with all the energy in your body that could power Konoha for years. You took on everyone and managed to win despite your handicap in learning at the academy with all the teachers there except Iruka trying to bring you down. When I heard you had died here in Wave Country, my heart broke into pieces because I never got to tell you that I really liked you Naruto-kun. And now I'm finding I can only say it with you being gone from this world. It's unfair for both of us in a way. You wanted to be loved by others despite the Kyuubi sealed inside of you, and I wanted to love you despite what everyone tried to do to prevent that from happening, said Hinata, as she put a hand on the grave marker, and felt the warmth it created that felt similar to Naruto when he was around her. You cared for him too, I see, said a beautiful sounding voice behind Hinata that made the Hyuga turn around and ready to fight in her gentle fist stance. Identify yourself, said Hinata, as she kept her space from Naruto's grave so it wouldn't get damaged should there be a battle, and saw a woman in a civilian homespun dress that showed off her female figure. I am Momochi Haku, adopted daughter of Momochi Zabuza, said Haku, as she walked towards Hinata, and saw the girl lower her guard slightly. You were with Naruto-kun at the end, said Hinata, as she had read the report, and had memorized everything word for word on Naruto's actions after Sasuke had been killed by Haku that set things in motion for the blonde's death. Yes, at the time, I was fully prepared to die for Zabuza, but just as I had stepped in front of the attack meant to end his life, Naruto had intervened, and taken the blow instead for me. I held him in my arms crying, pleading with him not to die, and he just smiled at me with those kind blue eyes that held happiness in them for what seemed like forever. It was as if Naruto-kun had finally done something good with his life by throwing it away to save me, and I couldn't stand the fighting anymore, said Haku, as she saw that look, and it was a look that would no doubt have been on her had she taken the hit for Zabuza. I loved Naruto-kun. I still do despite the fact he is dead, said Hinata, as she saw the same look in Haku's eyes that were in her own, and saw the older girl smile at her with a gentle smile. As do I enjoy your stay in Wave Country for as long as you are able to, said Haku, as she saw Hinata bow and leave having said what she wanted to say. Such a pure heart. She is a lot like you Haku-chan. You two could almost be sisters, said the shadowy figure now standing behind Naruto's grave with his black trench coat. And you would no doubt bed her like you did me not that long ago, right my Shadow-sama? Said Haku, as she walked over to him, and kissed his face currently masked by the darkness of the area. Only if she wished it. Like you did, remember? Said the Shadow Fox, as he made poor Haku blush at that memory, and held her closer to him. I remember Shadow-sama, but I am concerned with so many shinobi seeking you out here, and the threat they may represent to the people if you keep declining offers the way you have been doing, said Haku, as the Leaf had been on of many teams that had found the Shadow Fox, and had tried to win him over with their village's power. The results were less than encouraging for the cage of that village, with almost all the teams being decimated and returned to their village a shadow, no pun intended, of their former selves. You don't want a repeat of being on the run with Zabuza, said the Shadow Fox, as he held Haku tighter, and felt her do the same. But I also want you to be happy, and there is no other place we can be that will give you happiness, said Haku, as she saw the warrior before her smile at her through the dark shadow that covered him, and he rubbed her cheek affectionately. There is one, but it is risky, and I don't want you to be in any more danger than you have to be, said the Shadow Fox, as he saw Haku look at him with wide eyes, and he knew that she knew what he was referring to. "There? Are you sure?" said Haku, as she saw the shadow fox nod, and she kissed him again on his masked face. "We'll give them a trial run, but if I sense any kind of betrayal, then the village will have seen its last sunrise, and all in it will perish," said the shadow fox, as he saw Haku close her eyes, and nod her head at his words. For some reason, the sound of Shadow-sama talking like this is soothing, thought Haku, as she along with the shadow fox slipped into the darkness, and left the grave of the fallen hero behind. With Team 8 to 20 minutes later. "Did you say what you needed to say?" said Shino, as he saw the Hyuga heiress smile at him, and nod her head before walking upstairs to her assigned room. "She still looks a bit down. I'll help cheer her up further," said Kiba, as he had his own idea of what to do in regards to cheering Hinata up, but was stopped by Shino, and had to face the Abarame's glare. "If you go up there to do what it is you plan to do, I will see to it that Kurenai knows, and that today will be the last day you live your life as a man," said Shino, as he had known full well what Kiba's intentions were, and wasn't going to dishonor Naruto by letting the Inuzuka have his way with the Hyuga heiress. "Damn," thought Kiba, as he heard Akamaru bark in agreement, and saw his partner walk up the stairs to give Hinata comfort. Unlike Kiba, the dog's intentions were pure, and wanted to comfort the girl properly. No sooner did that happen though, did Kurenai enter the house, and looked at everyone in alarm. "Team 8 mobilize. There are a group of shinobi attacking the people in Wave Country," said Kurenai, as she heard Akamaru coming run down the stairs, and Hinata right behind the dog. "Are they from a village or are these missing nin?" said Shino, as this could lead to war with one of the other villages that wasn't already, and really upset things further. "Unknown. But if we ignore them, then the people in Wave Country will suffer, and we can't let that happen," said Kurenai, as she saw her team nod, and they quickly left the house to repel this enemy. At the battle, Inari panted, as he held his side from a wound he had received from one of the shinobi he was facing that by the looks on the headbands came from Kumo, and were also searching for the shadow fox. When no one gave them an answer, one of the more impatient Kumo shinobi became violent, and began attacking everyone in sight while yelling out for the shadow fox to come out to fight him. "I've grown stronger according to Big Brother, but even still, I'm still young, and have a long way to go before I reach his level," thought Inari, as he blocked a kunai with the one in his hand, and struggled to not be overpowered by the older stronger shinobi in front of him. "You're pretty strong for your age, kid. This village doesn't have a shinobi village, much less people that are shinobi here, so the question I have for you is who is your sensei?" said the Kumo shinobi, who judging by the vest was a Junin, and more level-headed than some of his group. "None of your business, that's who. This is my home and I'm going to defend it with my life," said Inari, as he was pushed back by the Kumo shinobi, and threw his kunai when that happened at his enemy before going through hand signs that made the one kunai become many. The now dozen of kunais threw straight and true with the Kumo shinobi, not expecting such a skill to be learned by someone so young, that ultimately led to the Kumo Junin's downfall. Granted, the Junin tried to move out of the way, but the explosive tag Inari had thrown in the direction the Junin tried to escape the attack shortly after using the jutsu, and made the Kumo shinobi realize he was in trouble before death claimed him. Inari looked away from the dead Kumo shinobi, as it had been one of his few starting out kills, and knew it wasn't going to be his last. "Die brat," said another Kumo shinobi, as he saw his friend die, and decided to return the favor. The attack was stopped by Hinata, who intercepted the Kumo shinobi, and killed him with her gentle fist strike to his heart. Turning her attention to Inari, Hinata began to heal the boy, who wasn't going to complain since she did save him, and seemed to be respectful to Naruto despite being a leaf shinobi. "The wound isn't deep, but don't move for a few minutes and recover your energy." "Who did teach you how to fight anyway?" said Hinata, as she saw Inari look away, and then look at Hinata, seeing she was clearly surprised at his skills. "My Ni-san. He taught me everything I know about being a shinobi," said Inari, as he saw Hinata look at him with confusion on her face, and then at the other Konoha shinobi fighting the large group from Kumo. "Kurenai-sensei, we are outnumbered, and cannot win despite our skills," said Shino, as he was able to take down a few shinobi with his bugs, and Kiba took down one shinobi with the help of Akamaru. "He's right. It's clear this group of Kumo shinobi were meant to talk and then show force to draw out the shadow fox," thought Kurenai, as she wondered how they were going to get out of this alive, and get back to the Hokage. Forget the Shadow Fox. Knock out those two bitches from the leaf to take back to the rakeage for breeding, said the group leader, as he pointed to Kurenai and Hinata with both girls shuddering at the thought. I can't allow that, said a deep dark voice, as the group felt a massive chakra signature, which they turned to, and saw the dark figure on the rooftop above that it was the Shadow Fox. The man was wearing everything dark, from the boots to the trench coat with his mask all black, but had designs of a bloody mouth in the shape of a fox's, and his hands seemed to be partially clawed like an Inuzuka. His hair was a mix of sun-kissed blonde hair and that of crimson red that was spiky with the length being just down past his shoulders. His chakra level was enormous from where he was, as he made Shino nervous along with Akamaru, and the man wasn't even trying to generate it out of his body, yet at the same time had an aura of calmness that made everyone who was not from Wave Country terrified of him. His eyes were also dark, as if he had none, but if he looked in your direction, it made you believe the Shadow Fox was judging your very soul to see if you were even worthy of standing in his presence. Shadow Fox, sir, we come from Kumo at the behest of our rakeage to recruit you to our village, and offer you the chance to work with the strongest village in all the elemental countries, said the group leader, as he produced a scroll for the Shadow Fox to read, and handed it to the Shadow Fox after he disappeared before reappearing in front of him. You expect me to join Kumo because of this offer? What I see here is nothing more than a hollow promise, with your rakeage wishing to know everything about me, and then having a mark placed on me to show my loyalty. A mark that is not surprisingly very familiar to the seal you have on one knee Yugito, your Nibi vessel in Kumo, and he uses to discipline her when he thinks she's acting too independent, said the Shadow Fox. Saw the Kumo shinobi scowl at that piece of information being discovered and that this thing before him had learned of what the rakeage wanted to do. Then let's put it this way then. You either come with us or we make you come with us by force. What's it going to be? Said the Kumo shinobi, as he saw his men get ready for a fight, and was confident that this creature would do the right thing by surrendering. The group leader's confidence died with him though when the Shadow Fox had his hand in the Kumo shinobi's chest before ripping it out in front of everyone. The other Kumo shinobi instant swarmed on the Shadow Fox like moths to a flame, but before they could even land a hit, they were all sliced to pieces by the shadowy sword in the Shadow Fox's hand that suddenly appeared in it, and just as easily disappeared like it wasn't even a real sword. Some of the Kumo shinobi that didn't attack began to flee, but were cut down by wave after wave of senbon needles, and were slain before they could make it 15 feet. Team 8 looked to find Haku in her attire she wore back all those years ago with her mask on, and had senbon needles in her hand ready to be thrown. Thank you for the assist, my Ice Queen, said the Shadow Fox, as he ignored the looks from Team 8, and their sensei since she was normally called only for different reasons. Anytime Shadow-sama, said Haku, as she stood by his side, and saw him motion for Team 8 to approach. Like Kumo, we are here to recruit you to our village, but the difference is we're here to only talk to you, and give you this scroll to show our attentions, said Kurenai, as she handed the scroll to the Shadow Fox while trying not to shiver in fear, and failed when one of his fingers touched her. Look at the scroll. The Shadow Fox opened it, read it word for word before letting out a deep growl of annoyance, and made Team 8 become nervous. The Hokage along with her predecessor had given them this scroll for the Shadow Fox to read for his eyes only, so they had no idea what was in it. Your Hokage and her predecessor are so foolish. Even after all they have done to keep the councils under control, the village is being run by arrogant Bakas, and made war with almost every single major village, said the Shadow Fox, as he saw that the Hokage was asking for his help to stop this war the Leaf had started, and was willing to pay a hefty amount for his trouble. We know. Hokage-sama has been under a lot of pressure by the councils, but has been able to work out another alliance with Suna, and they have been able to assist us on a few occasions, said Kurenai, as the reason behind Suna's allied invasion with Sound caused many things to change, and the late Casecage's youngest took over as the new Casecage of Suna since he was the most powerful shinobi in his village. Do they still spoil the Uchiha? Said the Shadow Fox, as he knew how they pampered the boy, and it made him sick. Yes, even after his attempt at defection, they are convinced that Sasuke will be able to help Konoha become stronger, and there is even talk of possibly making him Tsunade's successor in few more years, said Shino, as he felt his bugs shaking inside of him in fear, and telling their host to not do anything drastic to provoke him. And you wonder why so many people hate Konoha so much. What do you think, Ice Queen? Should we visit Konoha? Said the Shadow Fox, as he had Haku read all the information on the scroll, and then looked at him for a moment before nodding. Yes, if only for a little while, said Haku, as she saw him nod his head, and rolled up the scroll before throwing it at Kurenai. Tell your Hokage, I will enter Konoha within the week, and not a day sooner. Also, tell her to make sure the councils are there, as I have a few things to say to them, and that we will speak of things concerning Konoha shortly upon my arrival, said the Shadow Fox, as he saw Team 8 nod, and left to report back to the Hokage. Do you really have to go back there, big brother? Said Inari, as he looked up at the Shadow Fox, and the man ruffled the other's hair. It can't be helped, not to mention a certain organization is still causing problems and needs to be dealt with accordingly. For that, I will need Konoha's help, and they are the only village I can somewhat trust, said the Shadow Fox, as he looked to Haku, who nodded when he turned to face her since it was a silent signal to watch herself when there with him. And without another word a rectangular wall of ice appeared for the two to enter. Konoha a few days later. Tsunade sighed heavily, as the tension was getting to her over the arrival of the Shadow Fox, and what he wanted to talk to her about. She told the councils and forbid them from telling anyone since the last thing they needed was for the Shadow Fox to change his mind because of it. The only thing they could think of was how to convince the Shadow Fox to train the Uchiha so he can further increase Konoha's power. Tell me again why I took this job, Shizune, said Tsunade, as she looked at her assistant, and saw the woman look at her with sad eyes. Because of what Jiraiya told you, said Shizune, as she remembered that meeting very well, and the news of Tsunade's connection to Naruto all those years ago. Remind me to pound that super pervert into slime the next time he shows up, said Tsunade, as she saw her sensei come in, and smiled at her while thanking Kami he no longer had to deal with paperwork anymore. Dealing with his angry grandson was enough for him right now. How is my old job? Said the Sandame, as he saw Tsunade scowl at him, and the old Cage had a feeling that if it weren't for his current condition, his old student would hurt him. Being a pain in my ass since you gave it to me, said Tsunade, as she sighed again, and slumped back in her chair feeling even further exhausted. That and the Uchiha is still demanding that every single Junin in Konoha train him in all their jutsus, said the old Sandame, as he had made sure Tsunade told every Junin to deny that request unless she alone authorized it, and should he try anything to report him immediately. His failed attempt at running away from the village was still fresh in her mind, and when the team sent out to retrieve Sasuke thought they had lost the boy. They found him at the Valley of the End. But what they found upon arrival there was strange, as the last Uchiha was not standing there on his own 2 feet, but rather on the ground bleeding, his body broken, and a note on his back that said, Yubaka's Omi, signed SF. Not one to miss the opportunity to take Sasuke back and did so with Jiraiya examining the seal on the boy's neck. Or rather, what was left of it. As it turns out, the cursed seal of heaven on the boy's body was entirely destroyed, and some other kind of mark took its place that if Jiraiya's knowledge of seals was correct would prevent a new curse seal from being placed on the Uchiha. It had stumped Jiraiya for some time, as this mark was not human, and looked almost demonic in nature, causing the councils to believe that a demon was near Konoha, so they sent 3 platoons of Anbu out to cover the area around the village to make sure that wasn't the case. They found nothing. Hokage-sama, Hokage-sama, someone is at the gate claiming to be the Shadow Fox, said a Chunin running into the room having been ordered to tell the Hokage. Let him pass. Do not attack or provoke him in any way, said Tsunade, as she knew how the Bakas of this village hated foxes, and the fact his title had the animal attached to it might cause a bit of a commotion. He's also with someone as well. A woman wearing a hunter nin mask that seems to be of a customized design. Should she pass too? Said the Chunin and saw the woman scowl at him for his stupidity. Yes. Let them through or else he'll leave, said Tsunade, as she threw a paperweight at the Chunin running out of the room, and mumbled on about incompetent shinobi. It's finally time, said the retired Sandame and saw Tsunade rise from her chair, put on her Hokage robes with hat, and walked out of her office to greet the Shadow Fox. Konoha streets. People parted ways for the Shadow Fox along with his masked acquaintance, as they walked through the streets of the village, and seeing that nothing had really changed. Parents pulled their children away, those that were shinobi were on edge, and ready to fight should anything happen. Nothing has changed. They are still full of themselves. They seal away Kyuubi into a child and they think they are favored by Kami. This village needs a wake-up call, said the shadow fox to Haku, who silently nodded, and kept her senses sharp for anything wrong. Shadow fox, said Tsunade, as she appeared with a dozen Anbu in full battle gear, and the Sandame behind them ready to fight despite his handicap. Yes, you must be the slightly younger Hokage that was recruited to replace the older one, right? Said the shadow fox, as he saw Tsunade scowl at him, and was glad his mask hid his smile. Watch what you say, shadow fox. You may be strong, but even you are no match for a Sannin, and a cage in a single village, said Tsunade, as she saw the shadow fox just chuckle at her words, and he seemed to be mocking her even more. You have such faith in your Sannin, when all it takes to defeat him is a simple henge into a naked woman. And let's not get started on you with your fear of blood, said the shadow fox, as he saw Tsunade tense, and Jiraiya fell out of his hiding spot, and got up shooting a glare at the enigma of a shinobi. Let's talk inside with the councils. We can discuss your contract that is prepared for you to sign, said Tsunade, as she saw the man tilt his head slightly before nodding once, and followed her with Haku right beside him. There is something about him that seems familiar. I tried to use my Byakugan to see, but I couldn't pierce the mask, but his hair is almost like Naruto-kun's, and the way Haku was acting around him. Could it be? Is it him? Thought Hinata, as she watched the shadow fox walk to the Hokage tower, and part of her wanted to call out to him by the name she would speak so often in her dreams. Hokage Tower 10 minutes later. Everyone, I brought this meeting together for the purpose of announcing to you that the shadow fox has agreed to listen to our proposal in regards to possibly recruiting him to our village, said Tsunade, as she saw the shadow fox standing, and Haku still masked beside him. Hokage-sama, I must insist that the shadow fox remove his mask to reveal to us his true identity, and that of his female associate. It is unfair that he comes to this village and does not remove his mask. It shows a certain level of disrespect, said one of the members of the civilian council, as he wanted to know the identity of this person, and then sell it to the highest bidder, so the only safe place the shadow fox could go was in Konoha. I refuse, said the shadow fox, as he saw the councilman sputter in outrage, and he looked ready to sputter some words that would ruin everything for Konoha. You are in no position to refuse us, shadow fox. Show us your real identity or you will pay the consequences for it, said Danzo, as he had a couple dozen root Anbu stationed to take this man and convert him to his root program to help overthrow Tsunade. Oh, but I think I am in such a position, you crippled fool. You really think I'm afraid of all the people in this room? Most of you have never even been in a battle, much less knee-deep in war. You civilian council members think you can boss me around simply because you think your position makes you better than those that you are supposed to represent here. You try to run things in the village that none of you have experience in, and those that do are using outdated methods that are meant to support their own means, said the shadow, as he saw the shinobi council and the civilian council shouting out in protest. Silence, yelled out Tsunade, as she quelled the bickering the councils were having, and only the clan heads kept silent while watching the shadow fox stay perfectly calm. Hokage-sama, this so-called legend is just a disrespectful punk in my eyes, and should be taught a lesson in manners, said Homura, as he glared at the shadow fox, and then at Haku, though it had no effect on either one. Like you did the son of the Yondaime? Said the shadow fox, as he saw the clan heads along with the Hokage flinch, and the other half doing very little in that regard. What we did was necessary. What happened if the demon sealed inside of the boy got out? We needed the boy under our control, and beating him into submission was the only way regardless of his heritage, said the Haruno councilwoman, as she had tried to get support for letting the council seize the Namikaze assets, but every time they tried, they had been repelled by special account seals on the bank records, and the Namikaze estates itself could only be opened by the someone of the Yondaime's blood. I'm sure the clan heads here will feel better knowing if that happens to their clan, the child will be in safe hands, and the dead members of the clan can rest in peace in the afterlife knowing that their legacy is going to be beaten constantly within an inch of his or her life, said the shadow fox, as he saw the clan heads pale at that, and they realized their child could have been chosen had Kyuubi come sooner or later. This is getting us nowhere. I say we interrogate these two and possibly use them for breeding stock, said a member of the civilian council with support from the others around him while the clan heads remained silent. How about I kill everyone in this room and then all their children, said the shadow fox, seeing everyone shut up for 2 seconds and look at him with fear. You wouldn't dare, said the Haruno councilman, as he saw the shadow fox tilt his head slightly to the right, and then back to normal. I would, but then again my words may not be enough. Care to try your luck anyway? Said the shadow fox, as he saw everyone stay silent, and waited for Tsunade to take the much-needed control in this situation. Shadow fox, I know you have done an incredible job in hiding your true identity from everyone in the elemental countries, but I do feel that we should know your identity for the village's safety, and that of our shinobi you will be working with, said Tsunade, as she saw the shadow fox lower his head in thought with his arms crossed, and the girl beside him seemed to be whispering something to him that even Inuzuka Sume couldn't even hear them. Very well, but if I do this, I want it done so the whole village knows through a series of matches, and so I can give them the surprise of a lifetime, said the shadow fox, as he let out a laugh that sent chills down everyone's spine, and left with Haku through an ice mirror that had many with their mouths hanging open. Chunin Exam Stadium 10 minutes later. Be careful, Shadow-sama. I sense there are other shinobi here that will strike without the word of the Hokage to command them, said Haku, as she had sensed several of these other shinobi and didn't want the man to be flanked by them. Yes, I know. Deal with them cautiously while I'm fighting, said the shadow fox, as he saw her nod her head, and moved away from him while 3 of the strongest Junin in the village stood in front of him. The first match will be against Maida Guy and Taijutsu. Will the other 2 Junin move away to give them room to fight, said Jiraiya, who had been appointed referee for this match, and to observe the shadow fox at the same time. Yosh, I wish you good fortune in battle, Shadow Fox, and hope you are truly youthful in this fight, said Guy, as he held out his hand for the man to shake, and the shadow fox did to show no hard feelings. Okay, ready? Begin, said Jiraiya, as he made a Guy get into his taijutsu stance, and the shadow fox stand there waiting for an attack on his person. The first move is yours, Maida Guy. Show me what you've got, said the shadow fox, as he saw Maida Guy take the bait, and the green spandex-wearing man moved quickly to answer the challenge. While Guy was arguably the fastest Junin in the village, it was clear that the shadow fox was faster, as he moved so fast that he created moving afterimages of himself, and it was a shock to everyone that Guy couldn't hit the man once. Guy used a series of combos to get some kind of feel for the shadow fox's fighting style, but found it to be too unorthodox, and was instantly repelled by a hard backhand to the chest that was followed up with a solid kick to the stomach that sent Guy back a little over 20 feet. He knocked back Guy's sensei without even breaking a sweat, thought Lee, as he saw his sensei get up, and took off his weights to show he was getting serious. Your skills are impressive in the ways of taijutsu that you are one of the few people I have fought that requires I be more youthful in battle, Shadow Fox. Now you will face me without restraint, so if you wish to stop now, then tell me, and we will stop fighting, said Guy, as he didn't want to hurt the man if he wasn't able to handle fighting at this level, and somehow cripple the shadow fox in some way. As I told you before, Guy-san. Show me what you've got, said the shadow fox, as he makes a hand motion for Guy to come at him, and the man does even faster than before. For most people, the speed of Maida Guy was near impossible to see unless you had a bloodline limit, or your skills were higher than him. In this case, the shadow fox was clearly the stronger of the 2 fighters, as his afterimages now looked more solid, yet he still moved faster than Guy, and with a dash behind the man followed by a spin kick to the head was the green beast of Konoha sent skidding back 15 feet. Enough. The winner is the shadow fox, said Jiraiya, which got many boos from the crowd around him, and many called the shadow fox a cheater. If this is the best Konoha Junin have to offer, then this village is in serious trouble, and my fee may have to be doubled, said the shadow fox, as he knew whatever fee they had yet to arrange could be doubled if said he wanted it, and saw the shocked looks on the council's faces along with the Hokage's own. Hitaki Kakashi will now test the shadow fox in ninjutsu, said Jiraiya, as he now saw Kakashi step up, and ready to reveal his Sharingan to fight the shadow fox. You should really put that away. Your eye won't help you in this fight, Hitaki, said the shadow fox, as he saw the Junin narrow his natural eye at him, and got ready to use the other one regardless of the warning. Ready? Begin, said Jiraiya, as he saw Kakashi go through hand signs, and shot out a mud dragon at the shadow fox, now leaping into the air while hovering there with a mini tornado under him to sustain him, much to the shock of everyone else, since it took a great deal of mastery over that element to do such a thing. Water style. Great tidal wave jutsu, said the shadow fox, as he went through hand signs under his trench coat before creating a giant tidal wave of water from underground using the pipes underneath Konoha that ran underneath the stadium to send the surprised Junin crashing into the nearby wall. What shocked everyone further was something similar to the Chidori being held in the shadow fox's hand that he apparently called a lightning bomb before he dropped it. Upon impact with the water, the lightning bomb exploded with lightning being sent a powerful wave running through Kakashi's body, and caused him a great deal of pain when it hit. That attack was like a version of my Chidori or even a full-blown Rikiri. Maybe he'll teach me that if I ask politely, said Kakashi, as he tried to get off the ground, and saw the area still covered in water, and then found himself in water prison jutsu made by a shadow clone of the shadow fox. How does he know the shadow clone jutsu? Thought everyone, as they saw the original shadow fox look at Jiraiya, who declared the shadow fox the winner, and got more boos from the crowd. Last up is Yuhi Kurenai, who will be testing the shadow fox in genjutsu, and will test the man's skills in resisting it, said Jiraiya, as he saw Kurenai walk up to participate in this test, and saw the shadow fox give a quick nod to start the match. Demonic illusion. Tree-binding death, said Kurenai, as she trapped him in her illusion, and moved behind his body with a kunai to his neck. Impressive, but not enough to defeat me. Shadow illusion. Realm of darkness and demon eyes, said the shadow fox, as his body vanished from the tree he was bound to, and Kurenai found herself surrounded in total darkness with singular red-crimson eyes popping up to look at her with their penetrating stare. I can't see anything but these eyes. It's as if I'm blind to everything all around me that I know, thought Kurenai, as she felt her heart racing, and wondered how much of this she could take. Do you yield? Said the shadow fox, as he saw the woman through the darkness now starting to panic, and didn't want to make her suffer any more than she had to. Yes, said Kurenai, as she felt the genjutsu end seconds after she surrendered, and the shadow fox looking at her like nothing had happened. Winner. The shadow fox, said Jiraiya, as he wondered how this guy could bend shadows better than any member of the Nara clan kid, and wondered where the girl that was originally with the Enigma shinobi went before she appeared via ice mirror right beside him. All of them are neutralized, said Haku in a whisper to the shadow fox before he nodded in understanding. Shadow fox, you have passed all the tests before us, but now upon our agreement you have to reveal to us your name and your identity to us, said Tsunade, as she appeared with her assistant Shizune beside her, and they waited for the fox shadow to remove his mask. He didn't move. Shadow-sama, said Haku, as she turned to face him, and suddenly started laughing like there was some kind of inside joke being told. What's wrong? Aren't you going to tell us who you are? Said Tsunade, as she tensed when he started laughing, and so did the other shinobi in the stadium. You misunderstand my laughing, Senju Tsunade, as I am already known beyond this mask by another name within Konoha, and it's been so long since I've used it that even I have nearly forgotten my real name, said the shadow fox, as he reached up to touch his mask, and with a simple to no effort at all, the mask was removed from his face. What? Who is he? If he is from Konoha, then we would know, thought Tsunade, as she saw the mask the shadow fox wore slowly move away from the man's face, and the Sannin turned Hokage gasped at seeing the face beyond the mask with Jiraiya looking pale like a ghost. The face, the pronounced whisker marks, and that smile could only belong to one person that many thought had long since passed away. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto, as he saw the people around him become shocked, and a certain Hyuga heiress faint in the stands after letting out a squeal of joy. Naruto was home, but the question now was, did home want him, or did his home still want to kill him? The people were stunned, shocked, stupefied, and any other word in the dictionary that you could classify the people's reactions to this news that the shadow fox was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Thought to have been slain in Wave Country, taking the Kyuubi with him, and ending the Yondaime's bloodline permanently from this world. What's wrong? You really didn't think the Kyuubi would let me die back in Wave, did you? Said Naruto, as he saw the shocked look on Jiraiya's, Tsunade's, and Sandame's face in the stands watching with his shocked grandson Konohamaru. You're alive, said Tsunade, as she saw the boy that was her godson, and moved forward to touch his face to see if it was real. But she was stopped when the smirking face of this handsome Yondaime lookalike soon went to that of Scowl and his blue eyes turned crimson with a deep growl coming out of his throat. Instantly, Haku armed herself with senbon needles, and prepared to fight when 20 Root Anbu appeared ready to fight with Danzo right beside him. Namikaze Naruto, I am placing you under civilian arrest on the grounds of deserting your village, and I am going to move for your immediate execution after successfully breeding a child for the village, said Danzo, as his private security force was now moving in to arrest Naruto and take him to their master's secret root training station. You are making a big mistake, said Naruto, as he growled even louder, and his eyes glowed further with a crimson rage while his teeth became more pronounced. Danzo, I order you to stand down, and tell your private army to back off, said Tsunade, as she was not about to have her godson thrown away by this old war hawk when he just came back into her life, and there was so much she had to make up for. Some things never change around here. You want my head, Danzo? Why don't you be the strong leader you claim you are, and do it yourself, said Naruto, as he saw Danzo frown at him, and motioned for his rude Anbu to advance. Don't forget about the woman. Her bloodline limit is similar to the Nidaime's own and we can have Uchiha Sasuke sire a perfect combination of shinobi out of it, said Danzo, as he saw Naruto's face become that of intense rage, and the killer intent coming from the girl next to him was just as high. I warned you, yelled Naruto, as black shadowy tendrils of energy moved out from under him before shooting at each of the enemy, and struck one root Anbu after another with the tendrils moving around through each body they stabbed. You monster, said Danzo, as he saw his root Anbu soon explode after the tendrils whipped out of their bodies, and then direct themselves at Danzo himself. You should have known better. And my fee regarding Konoha? I've decided not to double it like I originally thought. No, I'm going to ask for triple the amount, said Naruto, as each tendril of shadowy energy struck Danzo in all 3 limbs, and then shot poisonous chakra into each of them. What are you doing to me? Said Danzo, as he screamed out in pain when another tendril hit him in the chest, and his other limbs began to go dark before turning to dust. Killing you. No more. No less, said Naruto, as he saw Danzo's face turn a shadowy black before turning to dust, and scattered into the wind. What the hell was that? Said Jiraiya, as he looked at Naruto, and then at Haku when Naruto didn't answer. It's called Shadow's Death Grip, and it destroys the body along with the soul, so there is no way to save the person struck by Naruto-kun's power, said Haku, as she saw Naruto calm down, and look at Haku with sorrow-filled eyes. I hate doing that in front of you, said Naruto, as he didn't want Haku to see this side of him, and remind her what he had become during their fight. It's all right, Naruto-kun, said Haku, as she removed her mask, and showed him that she meant it. Let's have another talk only privately this time in my office, said Tsunade, as she saw Naruto nod, and he followed the Hokage to the tower with Haku beside him. In the stands, the other rookies followed with their senseis since they all wanted to talk to Naruto too, and get some answers from him. Hokage's office. I'm glad you're back, Naruto. I missed you greatly, said the Sandame, as he had missed his surrogate grandson, and knew Konohamaru was going to be happy too. And you old man. However, I do not miss Konoha, and I think you know the reasons why outside of the fox being one of them, said Naruto, as he saw the 3 people in front of him flinch at that, and the guilt they all shared. Naruto, what happened to you when you were younger was mostly my fault, and believe me when I say that I tried to, said the retired Sandame, but was cut off when Naruto had unleashed an incredible amount of killer intent, and balled his fists with untold fury. You did and tried nothing. Tell me, old man, how would feel if it was your grandson that got beat up on his birthday, or forced to eat rotten food from dumpsters because the store owners didn't want their shops tainted by his presence? Perhaps I should take one of the youngest of the Hyuga clan's main family members to Kumo and see how they treat that poor child. What do you think will happen, old man? Perhaps we should try some kind of social experiment and try it out. Only I think Kumo will not be so tough on the child like I originally thought, but I think he will be if they think it will stick it to the leaf and make them feel better because it, said Naruto, as he saw the panic look in the retired Hokage's eyes. Naruto, you have to understand that your father's dying wish had to be honored, and, said the Sandame, and was once more silenced by the angry look on Naruto's face. My father wanted me to be seen as a hero, But that didn't mean it had to be for holding the Kyuubi, now did it? Hell, you didn't even have to tell the councils anything, but you did anyway, and look what happened. You think I'm going to simply walk back into this village and ignore the misery they gave me for the first 12 years of my life? 12 years of pain that shouldn't have even happened, but did thanks to your stupidity and their own negligence in raising me, said Naruto, as pointed to the other two beside the old man, seeing them flinch again, and sensed all the others outside doing the same. Well, almost all of them. Naruto, it's not that we didn't want to take care of you, it's just that we said Jiraiya, as he felt a tendril of shadow come up behind him, and wrap around his neck while a second one wrapped around Tsunade to prevent her from helping him. You were what? In pain? Suffering over the loss someone you cared about? Or did the fact that I held the Kyuubi inside of me have something to do with it, my oh so loving godparents? Said Naruto, as he saw Jiraiya try to break free from the shadow wrapped around his neck, and Tsunade was trying to use her superhuman strength to free herself. Naruto, please release them. They are sorry for neglecting their responsibilities and wish to make it up to you, said Hiruzen, as he didn't want to see the boy like this, and he only seemed to listen when Haku put a hand on his shoulder while whispering something into his ear. Fine, you want to make it up to me? I'll tell you how, said Naruto, as he retracted the shadow power to his form, and let his godparents go free from his grasp. Outside the Hokage's office, what are they saying? What are they saying? Said Konohamaru, as wish he could hear whatever was being said, and the other rookies wish they could too. Shut up, kid, it's hard to tell because of you asking that question. From what I can tell, they seemed to be arguing a few seconds ago, and now they stopped talking, said Kiba, as he pressed his ear against the door, and tried to hear any more of what Naruto might be saying. I can't believe Naruto is alive and that he's the infamous Shadow Fox, said Ino, as she had hearts in her eyes, and squealed like a fangirl. I'm kind of interested in how Naruto made that sword that you saw him make, Hinata, said Tenten, as had heard how the Shadow Fox that was Naruto made a sword simply out of shadow-like chakra, and was curious in learning any new sword techniques. Hinata of course wasn't thinking clearly at the moment, as she had a far-off look on her face, and judging by the blush, she was fantasizing about Naruto. He's so handsome, so strong, must make love to Naruto-kun, thought Hinata, as she was using her Byakugan to see her crush turned love interest, and let out a perverted giggle that turned many heads around her. Someone likes what she sees. How big is he? Said Ino, as knew that look anywhere, and wanted details to spread around Konoha. Fortunately or unfortunately, which was a point of view in this case, Hinata was unable to answer due to the door opening, and the object of the Hyuga heiress's desires walked out with Haku. He walked past all of them without a glance, but stopped in front of Hinata, and her face got even redder because of it. Leaning close to her, Naruto whispered something into her ear, and then walked off while the Hyuga heiress's eyes widened, and she collapsed with a smile on her face. Meet me at the Namikaze Estates in a few hours, Hinata-chan. I want to talk to you. Those words rang in her head like wedding bells, and inside of her, inner Hinata was now telling her to go home, and change so she was ready to see Naruto. Outside the Hokage's tower, Boss, wait up, said Konohamaru, as he ran after the Shadow Fox, and ran in front of him. Konohamaru, what do I owe the pleasure of the Sandame's grandson? Said Naruto, as he saw the boy frown at him, and saw the hurt in his eyes. Come on, boss, you know how I feel about being called that, and I'm not like the others that hated you. How could I? You saw me as just me just as I saw you as you. Can't we still continue to be friends like we were before? Said Konohamaru, as he hoped Naruto hadn't changed too much, and saw the infamous Shadow Fox pause in thought before nodding his head. Sure, kid, you do make a good argument when you put it like that. In a way, I'm glad to be back, if only to see one of the few people I can trust and call a friend, said Naruto, as he ruffled Konohamaru's hair, and smiled at the boy, seeing how much the kid had grown. No longer was he the whiny kid that tried to attack his grandfather, only to trip under his own 2 feet, and accuse someone else of tripping him instead. This one was training hard, learning all that he could, and was trying to be a true shinobi like Naruto was now. When Konohamaru learned the truth about Naruto's 2 most hidden secrets, the boy had gone into a fit of rage with the Sandame, as he yelled at his grandfather, calling him a coward, and not protecting Naruto better like the Yondaime wanted. From that point on, the little kid ignored his grandfather completely, no longer being trained by Ebisu, but someone else other than the elite Junin that knew what it meant to teach, and found that person in the academy teacher Amino Iruka. Iruka had changed drastically over the 3 years Naruto was declared dead, as he began teaching all the aspects of being a shinobi, not just the history portion, and got quite a few complaints from parents in the process. Iruka told those civilian parents of their children, who dreamed of greatness, that being a shinobi involved hard work, and if their children couldn't handle the cold hard truth, the kids could drop out. Iruka had also began working hard on his shinobi training, as he felt that he had been getting soft, and began to work out more to improve his standing. The man was even considering the idea for applying for the Junin exam and advancing in rank. As for his student, the Sandame's grandson was now the top of his class in everything, even declared the future Rookie of the Year. But Konohamaru had ignored the title, and kept trying to get stronger. There were on occasions that the Sandame would try to speak with his grandson, but the boy just ignored him, and would only on occasion speak to his uncle Asuma. Now that Naruto was back, Konohamaru had a reason to be truly happy, and was going to prove that he wasn't just the grandson of the Sandame. "Naruto," said Kakashi, as he stood in front of his former student, and saw the glare the Naruto was giving him. "Hello Hitaki-san," still silently bellyaching over the loss of old friends, said Naruto, as he saw Kakashi look away slightly, and couldn't hide the guilt on his masked face. "Naruto, I know I wasn't the best teacher to you, but I did intend to further your training when we got back from Wave Country, and teach to be a proper shinobi," said Kakashi, as he saw Naruto scowl at him, and flex his clawed hands. "You mean one that's tardy to team meetings or secretly trains the Uchiha in his spare time?" said Naruto, as he saw Kakashi's eye widen at that, and look a tad nervous. "You knew?" said Kakashi, as he saw Naruto nod before letting out a harsh laugh, and making the Cyclops Junin look a little fearful. "Who do you think stopped Sasuke from leaving? The only real reason that prodigy of a moron has no knowledge of his humiliating defeat because I wiped his mind, but before I did, I decided to take a look at his memories with a little shadowed chakra digging into his skull. How surprised was I when after you got back from telling everyone I was dead, you were still trying to train Sasuke only one day of mourning me, and even then you still had time to read your stupid orange book," said Naruto, as he saw Kakashi look away in shame, and heard Konohamaru gasp along with the other rookies behind him. "We all have ways of handling the death of friends, Naruto," said Kakashi, but even he knew that was the worst lie he ever spoke that made all his other ones for being late seem truthful, and Naruto knew it too. Had it been Sasuke, you would have been mourning his death for weeks, and would have stopped training Team 7 for a long time. What makes Sasuke's life more valuable than mine, Hitaki? Especially since I'm your sensei's son. Of course, you didn't see that when you looked at me, did you? You only saw the Kyuubi reborn, looking just like my father to further torment you, and couldn't stand the sight of me. Right, Hitaki? Right? Answer me, you lying piece of leaf shit," said Naruto, as his chakra from his body spiked significantly, and the Junin looked away unable to answer. "He doesn't have to because you're right, Naruto," said the Sandame, as he appeared with a heavy-hearted look on his face, and sighed like the tired old man he truly was. "And how would you know, old man?" said Konohamaru, as he glared at his grandfather, and made the man flinch. "Because I assigned him to Naruto in the hopes that Kakashi would see Naruto wasn't the monster everyone made the boy out to be. Believe it or not, Yuhi Kurenai wanted the boy on her team because she knew he could help Hinata and possibly bond with Shino. I told her it was out of the question because I felt Kakashi would be better suited for the job when you consider who his sensei was." Kurenai tried to protest, telling me how I was making a mistake like I had made so many with the boy, and it was only the threat of demotion to Chunin did she back off, said the Sandame, as he felt Naruto's angry gaze now directed at him, and the crimson eyes glowing with power. "So you're saying I could have been with a team that I could have started out great with, but you gave me a team that didn't like me from the start, and a sensei to boot that hated me also? For someone who is the supposed to be the professor, you sure are stupid. You just expect people to get over their hate of me once they see me? When people saw me back then, they hurt me because they thought I was a demon, and you knew that to be the case from the start," said Naruto, as he saw the Sandame look away, and saw Kakashi do the same. "But now that everyone knows that you're the Yondaime's son, you can get the respect you deserve," said Sakura, as she had been told by her mother to warm up to Naruto now, and possibly marry into his clan for the vast wealth it contained. She just heard Naruto's cruel laugh again before he glared at the rookies with glowing crimson eyes similar to the Kyuubi's own. "You foolish stupid baka of an Uchiha fangirl. You think I should have respect now simply because I'm the son of the Yondaime? That's saying you should just fall in love with Sasuke simply because he is the last loyal Uchiha to the Leaf. You know what that means to me? That it's a bunch of crap. When I was a no-named orphan, people hated me so much they couldn't stand me, but now that I have all this supposed power, I'm now a valuable commodity to have around, and to lose it would mean the death of the village. It's because of my clan heritage that you are all scrambling to save face Sakura and try to make up for your past transgressions. How completely pathetic you are right now to me. Come on Haku, I'm tired and I need to rest at my new home," said Naruto, as he had seen how his old apartment had been torn down, and a new fancy one had been put up. Naruto made a quick mental note to burn it down to make a statement on the fact he didn't appreciate this village. Namikaze Estates 15 minutes later. The Namikaze estate was not that far from the Hyuga compound, but well defended should the need arise to defend those that lived there, and when Naruto used his blood to unlock his inherited home, it felt good. The place was dusty from over a decade of being untouched, but an army of shadow clones would take care of it, and the original focused on the bed that called upon him to sleep in it. "Are you that tired Naruto-kun?" said Haku, as she saw his fatigued face, and how he just nodded while removing his clothes so he could let himself collapse onto the soft mattress before falling asleep completely. It pained Haku to see Naruto like this. In truth, his return here along with his unmasking had brought a lot of past pain to the surface, and it was really hurting him like an old wound that didn't seem to heal. Haku had hoped it would with her being by his side, but after seeing him today, she realized she would need help from those that cared about him, and would see Naruto as Naruto. Removing her own clothes, Haku slipped into the bed with Naruto, and began snuggling up against him to let him know she would be with him. "Always. You are a lucky man, Kit. You already have 2 hot women that love you, but it's not enough, and it may never be enough for the pain you have gone through. Nonetheless, I will help you destroy your enemies, as you have promised to destroy mine, and help you restore your clan to its destined greatness," said Kyuubi, as he sensed his vessel sleep, and that of one of soon-to-be many female lovers by his side. A few hours later, Hinata walked up to the Namikaze estates feeling tingly all over, as she was going to see Naruto again for what felt like forever after finding out he was alive, and this may be her only chance to tell him how she feels. Maybe he already knew. If he did, then this would make things easier, and it wasn't like he was going to break her heart privately. Right? Knocking on the door, Hinata let out a long breath to calm her nerves, and was surprised when the door opened to see Haku wearing a water blue robe that did little to hide her very wide figure. Inwardly, Hinata was hoping this didn't signify that Naruto was taken, and that Haku was simply a friend living with the Namikaze to help him get settled in. "Hello Hinata-chan. Do come in," said Haku, as she let Hinata enter, and sensed the girl's slight hesitation. "I'm not intruding on anything, am I?" said Hinata, as she could only imagine what Haku was doing before she came over, and why she was wearing that robe. "No. Naruto-kun was tired from earlier today when he talked to your Hokage and has been sleeping ever since," said Haku, as she wasn't going to tell the girl she slept in the young man's bed if just platonically at this moment, and saw Hinata nod. "Does Naruto-kun know how I feel?" said Hinata, as she decided to cut to the chase, and ask Haku right out the question that could determine her future with the Namikaze. "Yes, he does know, which was why he wanted you here today so one of us could talk to you, and it just so happens to be me," said Haku, as they sat down in the living room, and each took a comfortable chair across from the other. "I see. Are you in a relationship with him?" said Hinata, as she was glad Naruto knew of her feelings, but feared what Haku was to Naruto since the girl was an unknown to her, and needed to know if she was unknowingly being the third wheel in their relationship. "I would be lying if I told you I wasn't. However, before you feel your heart break any further than you must be feeling it now, I want you to know that because Naruto-kun is the last of his clan, he can have multiple wives to restore it, and that if you do love him like you claim, you can join his clan as one." "Do you still wish to be?" said Haku, as she saw the Hyuga heiress look away in thought, and now running this information through her mind. "I love Naruto-kun with all my heart, Haku-san. He inspired me even when I thought he was dead to keep going because I knew he would cheer me on if he were there at every encounter I was in. You are asking me to share my love for Naruto-kun with you along with any other woman that comes into his life he may love. I trust Naruto-kun, as I'm sure you do, and all I want is for him to be happy. I want to contribute to his happiness, and if it means sharing my love for him with other women, I will, said Hinata, as she saw Haku smiling back at her, and the now silent agreement between them to make Naruto happy. Welcome to the family, Hinata-chan. When Naruto-kun wakes up, we can tell him the good news and show you one of the perks to being with him, said Haku with a devilish smile on her face, and it made Hinata blush cherry red since she had many intense dreams in that area. Anything I should know? Said Hinata, as she was shy around this subject, and even more so when it concerned Naruto. Just two things. He's big and has a lot of energy to make your entire being turn to mush, said Haku, as she saw Hinata have a spaced-out look with her nose now bleeding with all the perverted thoughts running through her head, and inner Hinata was telling her to go into his room to give him a proper wake-up call. When do you expect Naruto-kun to awaken from his slumber? Said Hinata, as she saw Haku deep in thought, and it seemed she didn't have an answer. It's hard to tell. Naruto-kun has been through a lot since his near-death experience back in Wave Country 3 years ago, and the return here isn't a pleasant thing for him either. With the actions that Danzo character tried, as well as the way people still look at him, Naruto is trying to endure the pain this place gave him, and I'm going to need your help to heal the wound in his heart. Especially after he found out about his family, and that his mother was still alive at the time, said Haku, as she remembered that touchy subject all too well, and shivered slightly at the look Naruto had that day. His mother is alive, said Hinata, as she had thought the woman died the day Naruto was born, and that was the reason he was always alone. She was alive, Hinata-chan, but that all changed when Naruto found out, and hunted her down looking for answers to why she left. The answer he got, burned at his very core, and being back here just makes the wound deeper, said Haku, as she began to tell the story to Hinata about Uzumaki Kushina, and how she betrayed her son the day he was born. And how Naruto made her pay. Flashback 1 year and 5 months ago. Naruto had finally tracked her down to this simple place where she had hidden herself from him deliberately. After being enhanced by Kyuubi's various powers, which included mastery over shadows, Naruto had learned through this skills that his mother was still alive, and she was here in Crane City deep in the elemental countries in a well-sized home for a widow. Naruto had asked around about her to learn about the woman that gave him life, and then left him to see what people thought of her. She's a real partier, that one. Acts like she doesn't have a care in the world, said one person Naruto had asked and had been at a party with Kushina. Loves to drink at parties. Flirts with a lot of men too. I think she even left with a few on occasion, said another, as he recalled the redhead drinking with some guy, and then they left soon after with the guy giving his buddy a thumbs up. I asked her once about any family she may have, and she told me that she had none. That everyone she ever loved was dead, said a third person, a woman in her mid-30s, and she missed the angry look on Naruto's disguised face. That had been enough for Naruto, as he went to his mother's home, and silently broke in before waiting for her to come home that night from her partying. When Kushina did return, she was laughing with a man, kissing him passionately in a state of lust, and letting the man touch her aggressively. Naruto had to put a stop to it. With 3 kunai to the man's skull, the mood was ruined, and Kushina was now looking unknowingly at her angry son she had long abandoned to the Leaf's brutality. Before the red-headed woman could do anything, Haku appeared behind her, and knocked her out so time would pass to let the alcohol in her blood run its course. When Kushina did wake up many hours later, she had a killer headache, and had found herself tied up in a chair with cuffs on her wrists along with her ankles with seals on them of some kind she had never seen before. Looking up, she saw crimson blonde hair, and the face of her captor masked in shadow with crimson red eyes burning a hole through her head. So you caught me and ruined my one-night stand. You're lucky I'm not restrained right now or I'd make you regret killing me, said Kushina, as she saw the figure remain silent for a moment, and seemed to be looking at something in his hand. I've often wondered what you looked like for many years now. If I had your hair, your smile, your laugh, I wondered if you even loved me, said Naruto, as he saw Kushina frown at him, and it was clear she didn't know who he was. Loved you? Pal, I don't even know you, and even if I did I doubt I would want to, said Kushina, as she felt the room cool down a couple hundred degrees, and it wasn't a good feeling either. "No, I imagine you wouldn't know me since you left me the day I was born, and right after I had the Kyuubi sealed inside of my body, Mother," said Naruto, as he walked a few steps closer, and had revealed his face to the one that brought him into this world. I thought myself liberated of the very sin of giving birth to you, O son of mine. But I know what you are. You're the demon made human flesh, aren't you? After all, only a demon could survive the clutches of death like you did in Wave Country," said Kushina, as she spat at his feet, and looked at him with angry rage. "So I was right. You didn't love me at all. Even if I wasn't the one to have Kyuubi sealed inside of me, you would have left, and I would have been alone," said Naruto, as he saw her smirk at him, and it was making the Namikaze angry. "I loved the Yondaime with all my heart, but having a kid so early on in my life was not something I wanted, and yet he was happy to be a father all the same. So for the sake of his happiness I kept it, but that didn't mean I wanted to be a mother, and least of all to my so-called son turned into a demon," said Kushina, as she had been told by the Sandaime to not do this, and to raise her son like Minato would have wanted. Kushina soon found her comment had rewarded her with a backhand to her face from the young man that was her son, and she had to spit out some blood from her mouth before she looked up at him. "Do you honestly think my father would turn me into a demon? He completely sealed the beast inside of me, asking that I be seen as a hero, and what do? You run away like a coward. If you really loved my father, you would have stayed, and raised me like a true mother would," said Naruto, as he saw her glare at him, and he returned it. "I should have drowned you in the river when I learned of what Minato turned you into," said Kushina, as she senses the figure behind Naruto look at her now, and the killer intent was slowly increasing. "When I get through with you, my so-called mother, you are going to wish that you had done what father had asked, and are going to beg for my forgiveness," said Naruto, as he had heard all he needed to hear from this woman, and decided to administer the proper justice in this matter. "Do you wish me to leave Naruto-kun?" said Haku, as she saw Naruto's shadow powers rise around him, and the terrified look on Kushina's face. "Please do, Haku-chan. What I'm about to do to this traitor should not be seen by your lovely eyes," said Naruto, as he turned his head to see Haku nod, and then leave before turning back to his so-called mother. "Are you sure you don't want me to do this?" said Kyuubi inside Naruto's mind, as he felt the lingering sense of guilt his vessel was feeling, and decided to intervene. "No. This woman before me is no longer my mother in spirit, and after today, she won't be my mother, period," thought Naruto, as light in the room began to dim, and all was left for Kushina to even see was the glowing crimson eyes her son now had burning in the darkness. All Haku could hear while outside the room was the woman's screams of pain, her curses, her insults to Naruto, and the eventual pleas for forgiveness mixed with that asking for mercy that echoed within. End flashback. Naruto-kun was betrayed by his own mother? How horrible, thought Hinata, as she had no idea that the betrayal of the village had extended beyond it, and had hit his family too. Regardless of what you think, Hinata-chan, the burden of what Naruto did has weighed heavily on him, and I shudder to think of what would happen if I wasn't there to comfort him, said Haku, as she had remembered how pale he looked, and how she had been there for him to hold on to. "I understand. Could I see Naruto-kun?" said Hinata, as she wanted to see Naruto if just for a moment, and possibly comfort him in her own way. "Of course. Just don't try to jump him in his sleep," said Haku, as she heard Hinata let out an eep, and blush a heavy shade of red. "Like you would do that before you married him." "Then again," said inner Hinata, as she was pondering the idea with Naruto waking up, and then taking it to the Hyuga heiress as a form of punishment. 2 days later, Hokage's Tower Council meeting room. "This is inexcusable. What gives that brat the right to do what he did without any kind of repercussions? I don't care if he is the son of the Yondaime, he must be punished, and it must be done immediately," said one of the civilian councilmen, which got a roar of approval from many, and gave the Hokage a killer headache in return. They had been at this for some time now, as each time someone demanded Naruto pay for his actions against Danzo, and abandoning the village. Some demanded that Naruto sire a child before his execution, while others demanded financial restitution in the form of a third of Namikaze bank accounts, and another time they wanted to order Naruto to teach Sasuke everything he knew. Then there was Naruto's terms of payment, which were unknown in terms of how much he wanted, and there was also the fact that whatever the amount was, the Namikaze had intended to triple it. If that was the case, then it would most likely bleed the village dry of funds, and make Naruto the richest man in the village. Perhaps you should have spoiled him like you did the Uchiha? Said Jiraiya, as he saw all of them scowl at him, and knew he didn't like how they pampered Uchiha Sasuke. Indeed, said Naruto, as he walked from the shadows of the room wearing his shadow fox attire with the mask, and looked at the group before him. Give us one good reason why we shouldn't summon the Anbu to come in here to kill you, demon? Said Homura, as he saw Naruto look at him, and then at the Hokage. Because I'll kill them like I did Danzo's private little army along with you. So shut your mouth before I close it for you, said Naruto, as he shot an intense blast of killer intent, and enforced his command. I take it that you're here to discuss your fee for your future services to the village? Said Tsunade, as she saw him nod, and take a few more steps before stopping directly in front of the large table. Yes, and I'm not going to make it cheap. You all made the mistake of making almost all the shinobi village around you your enemy, and now they have become mine. My fee is to be paid monthly, on time, and if I find out you are going to screw me over, well, I will leave that up to your imaginations, said Naruto, as he laughing slightly at the ideas of what he could do to them, and possibly enjoy it too. What is your fee? Said Tsunade, as she saw her godson scraping his clawed hands against the table in a rhythmic, and quite irritating manner. My standard fee for my services is 50 million ryu a month, and considering I am asking for triple my original fee, said Naruto, as he saw everyone go pale at the calculation of that number in their heads, and they looked like they were getting ready to faint. The cost is 150 million ryu a month, said Tsunade, as she was about ready to have a heart attack, and so was everyone else in the room with the exception of Naruto. That could bankrupt us depending on how long you stay in the village, said Koharu, as she was outraged by this, and would kill Naruto right now if she had the means to. No, it's made for you to look strong. Of course it will bankrupt the village, you stupid old bat, said Naruto, as he saw her becoming increasingly angry, and had half a mind to just shout for the Anbu if not for the lingering threat of Naruto killing her. I was wondering if we could convince you to reconsider tripling your fee since you are still technically a member of this village, Naruto, said Tsunade, as she would have to go through the necessary paperwork to make it official, and get the ruling from the clan heads to make it official. Technically, I'm still dead in the eyes of Konoha law, and even if you changed it so I'm not dead I would still charge you that amount. Besides, it shouldn't be too hard to get the money together from the village populace since I'm sure they'll bend over backwards to keep me happy just like they do for the Uchiha. Right? Said Naruto, as he loved seeing their reactions to that little wound, and had no guilt about putting all the salt possible on it. Speaking of the Uchiha, would you? Said Homura, as he was going to ask Naruto to teach Sasuke, but was silenced by a blast of killer intent. It will be a cold day in hell before I teach that spoiled Uchiha anything. If that moron so much as he even looks at me the wrong way, I'll butcher him, and leave you with an even lesser so-called prodigy, to what you already have now, said Naruto before, as he saw the weak civilian council, and the shinobi council shout at him when he started leaving the room. Tsunade sighed while the clan heads stayed silent, as they were thinking about what had happened with their own children, and how they had screwed over the Yondaime's son. Go back in time before Kyuubi attacks, kill every single person that hurt me, and tell my father about how everyone he trusted to take care of me betrayed him. Maybe then I'll consider not taking what is mine and just leaving Konoha to burn at the hands of all the enemies it's made out of their own arrogance. No amount of sake could drown out those hated-filled words. Outside of the Hokage Tower, as Naruto walked out of the building, he was greeted by Haku and Hinata waiting for him with both girls sporting smiles upon seeing him. It had been quite an interesting outlook for the Namikaze, as he had awakened to see Hinata sitting in a chair beside his bed, and fast asleep while waiting for him to wake up. The look on the Hyuga heiress's face was priceless when he stirred Hinata awake and she saw Naruto's face just inches from her own. She sported a big blush before desire in its ever-rare moments in time had overridden the need to faint, and Hinata instantly tackled him in a hugging embrace before kissing him deeply. Soon, it became a heated makeout session, and led to the one thing Hinata had long since desired in all her life when in this position with Naruto. And from there, as they say, is history. Haku could still see the glow that surrounded Hinata, which was very much similar to Haku's own when she had become intimate with Naruto, and was secretly looking forward to her own time with the Namikaze again. Haku's thoughts on the matter were disrupted when she sensed the chakra of Uchiha Sasuke behind her several feet away, as he had a look of arrogance about him, and the hunger for power was clearly evident in his eyes. There were times that Haku looked back on the memory of the bridge and wished she had actually killed the Uchiha rather than being soft in her reluctance to kill people. After what Naruto did for her back then in Wave Country, Haku had stopped using the no-kill policy on her life, and only spared those that Naruto deemed worthy. So the loser cheats death and is the legendary Shadow Fox, huh? I don't know which is worse. You being alive, or you being the Shadow Fox every village wants, said the ever-arrogant Sasuke, as he had become infuriated at the dead last rumored power, and had constantly pressured Kakashi to train him in everything he knew. I don't know which is more pathetic either. You still trying to kill your brother? Or the fact that the people in the Leaf still think you will revive your clan with their precious daughters? Maybe if they hanged into boys, you would be more eager, said Naruto, as he saw Sasuke scowl at him, and would have charged forward had it not been for Hitaki Kakashi getting in between them both. Sasuke, don't. Naruto was the one that stopped you from going to Orochimaru 3 years ago. If he can do that to you then, there is no telling what he can do to you now, and this time he may just kill you, said Kakashi, as he sensed Naruto glaring at him, and so did the other 2 girls behind the Namikaze. He got lucky. Besides, I've been taught by you on nearly everything you know, and I'm not about to have some so-called Shadow Fox feel superior to a member of the Uchiha clan, said Sasuke, as he looked over Naruto's shoulder, and saw Haku looking at him with a scowl of her own. Even now you spare the Uchiha the beating he so rightfully deserves right now, Hitaki. Where were you when I was getting my fair share of beatings? Said Naruto, as he saw the Junin look away, and before he could look back at Naruto, the Shadow Fox had kneed him hard in the gut. The blow made Kakashi fall to his knees, clutching his stomach, and trying not to throw up into his mask or out his nose. Before he could try to even suppress the urge to puke, Kakashi was struck by a blow to the head by Naruto, and saw darkness upon impact. With Kakashi down, Naruto stepped over the Junin's unconscious form, and walked towards the now battle stance ready Sasuke. I've waited a long time for this loser. I'm going to put you in your place and show how much of a fake you really are, Shadow Fox, said Sasuke in a mocking tone, as he was ignoring Haku's right hand filled with Senbon, and Hinata's bloodline activating. And I have been waiting for a second chance to kick the crap out of you before taking away those queer eyes of yours. The only reason I didn't do it before was the councils would be bending over backwards to find out who did it and I couldn't risk them hunting me when I had other things to do, said Naruto, as he saw the Uchiha activate his eyes, and that was all the Namikaze needed. Time to remove those eyes, and his head, said Kyuubi as he was ready to do his part, and let Naruto know through their link to each other before creating a demonic chakra barrier around the two in order to prevent the growing number of people from stopping the process. Moving faster than Sasuke's Sharingan eyes could even see, Naruto was behind Sasuke, punched the man in the lower spinal area, and wrapped shadow hands that seemed to come out of his chest before forcing the Uchiha down to his knees. Sasuke tried to move, but couldn't focus his chakra to even make a simple substitution, and felt something digging into the back of his head. What are you doing to me? Said Sasuke, as he tried to resist whatever it was Naruto was doing, but found himself unable to, and it felt like his brain was on fire. I'm taking away your bloodline, Sasuke. Both from your eyes and that tiny thing between your legs that shoots the life-giving seed out. Now even if you were to get lucky with any girl, they will only produce non-Sharingan users should they ever carry your child, and even then the kids you sire will be so weak even a fangirl like Sakura can beat them, said Naruto, as he felt Sasuke's bloodline leaving him, and forming into a liquid orb in his hand while retracting his arm back. Stop it, you can't do this to me. I'm an Uchiha. Without my bloodline, I'm nothing more than said Sasuke, as he screamed out in pain, and the realization of what he was becoming sank in hard. What? You're nothing more than what? A simple commoner? Your average shinobi? If you can't be a shinobi without that bloodline of yours I took away, then you don't deserve to even live, and have to die? Said Naruto, as he walked around Sasuke after removing the shadow hands from around his body, and raised his hand with the orb of the bloodline he took from the former Uchiha to summon a scythe before bringing it down upon the former Uchiha's neck. Naruto, stop. yelled Tsunade, as she came quickly with the rest of the councils when they heard what was going on, and now saw the situation the Uchiha was in with Naruto. Why? You know the history between me and this piece of shit from the old man. Do you know just how much weight I had to carry for him and Sakura on those crappy D-ranked missions while Kakashi trained Sasuke afterwards? All of it. I am sick and tired of everyone praising the former Uchiha for his once-held bloodline when all it does is steal from others. It'd make a mockery of our profession, said Naruto, as he didn't look away from the now terrified eyes of Sasuke, and the silent plea they sent to show mercy. How pathetic this weakling looked right now was almost laughable. What do you mean, former Uchiha, said the Haruno councilman, as he didn't like where this was going, and neither did the Shinobi Council. Simple. I took away his Sharingan in his eyes and the ability to reproduce it in his loins. Unless Itachi returns to Konoha, the Sharingan eyes are lost to the leaf, and the Uchiha clan is no more, said Naruto, as he saw the horror on both councils' faces, and it was a pleasant thing to see in his mind. We needed that bloodline, said a fat man on the civilian council that was influential in Konoha's merchant guild. Well, now you will have to deal without it because when I see Itachi, I'm going to kill him too, and I'm going to collect the bounty on it to further add to my fee, said Naruto, as he walked away from Sasuke for a second, and saw the relieved look on the people's faces before he took it away by spinning around with his scythe, taking the Uchiha's head clean off. Nicely done, kid. Nicely done, said Kyuubi, as he removed the chakra barrier, and had sensed his vessel was pleased with the results of what he did. We'll have you arrested for this, said Homura, as he had shinobi all around them to arrest Naruto, and would have had the killer intent coming off. The namikaze was intense. You will do nothing. What you will do is agree to my terms, or I will destroy everything in this village before rebuilding it in my own image, yelled Naruto, as he generated such power that to even a minor attempt at moving seemed fatal. With the record straight, Naruto recalled his seemingly demonic power to his body, and left with his two special girls now by his side. This is impossible, Jiraiya. How can we make Naruto happy when all we do is infuriate him more? Said Tsunade, as she didn't know what to do in handling, and Jiraiya along with the Sandaime were just stumped. I don't know, Tsunade-hime. I really don't know. In all honesty, if I had known what was going on like our sensei was supposed to do, then I would have come back sooner, and helped the kid out, said Jiraiya, as he had failed as a godparent, and Kushina had failed to be the loving mother Naruto needed. Kushina was getting ready to leave the moment she heard Minato died and Kyuubi was sealed inside her son. She wanted nothing to do with Naruto even after she gave birth to him. All she cared about was Minato, but when he died, and she decided that this village had no purpose for her despite the fact she had a son, said the Sandaime, as he felt the guilt of denying Naruto so much, and it was becoming a problem for his already old heart. Well, I hope Kushina's dead, because if she's not, I'll make her wish she was, and then use one of Orochimaru's forbidden jutsus to bring her back just to do it all over again, said Tsunade, as she had suspected Kushina was like that, but chose to trust in Minato, and was now regretting it like she had in neglecting her duties as Naruto's godparent. What are you going to do about Naruto's terms? Said the old retired Sarutobi, as he saw Tsunade frown further, and rubbing her temples to water down the headache now hitting her. Consider this a one-time thing, Tsunade-sama, said Shizune, as she knew that Tsunade needed this, and was going to let her drinking habit be ignored this one time. It didn't take long for Tsunade to empty the bottle, though Jiraiya helped along with the Sandaime. Unknown location 2 days later. What do you have to report? Said Pain, as he stood among the others projecting the members of his infamous organization made up of S-class shinobi, and awaited for Itachi to speak. It seems that our sources have indicated that the Shadow Fox is the vessel of Kyuubi known to us all as Uzumaki. Naruto has joined Konoha. However, it appears that he is more than we originally thought, since he changed his name to Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and is the Yondaime's son, said Itachi, as he saw many of the members looked shocked at this, and saw that some of them looked a bit nervous. There is also the fact that the kid killed Itachi's little brother Sasuke after removing the Sharingan from his eye's head before taking it, said Kisame, as he saw Itachi's eyes widen slightly before going back to normal, and Pain looking thoughtful for a moment. This could be a problem. If the boy is indeed his father's son, then it's clear that he will learn everything his father knew from his family's home, and become a threat even to me, said Pain, as he knew that the Shadow Fox was powerful, But the boy being the son of the Yondaime, and the knowledge in the Namikaze estates was something that would bring Naruto to untold power that could rival that of Uchiha Madara. "Should we pursue him before we go after the others?" said Kisame, as he wanted to know where they stood with collecting the other demon vessels out there, and what order to collect them in. "No, we are to go after Shukaku first, then Nibi, and after that we will go after the fox vessel," said Pain, as he wanted to collect the others before going after Naruto, and saw the other members nod in understanding. What if the kid doesn't have it? He was supposed to have died after taking a Chidori to the chest. What if he survived and the Kyuubi didn't? Said Kisame, as he wasn't about to go on a wild goose chase only to find the goose was just some duck, and a waste of his time. That is what Itachi's eyes are for. Since you both are paired together for that reason, you will go out to find Naruto, and see if he does indeed have the fox inside of him. If he does have the Kyuubi, capture him for the extraction process, and if not, leave him be, said Pain, as he would not pursue someone that did not hold what he needed, and this was the only way to make it possible. We understand, said Itachi, nodding in understanding with Kisame. Good, you all know what to do. Dismissed, said Pain, as the projection from each of the members of Akatsuki left the room in darkness. Namikaze estate at the moment. Haku let out a happy sigh of bliss, as the sweat from the incredible she just had with Naruto gave her body a celestial glow, and snuggled up closer to the Namikaze. He had been feeling very bloodthirsty after what he did to the Uchiha, which seemed just fine to the village after several fanatical Uchiha lovers tried to kill Naruto in order to properly avenge the late Uchiha Sasuke, and the Namikaze clan head had no problem in just unleashing his fury on them. Upon entering the Namikaze estates, Naruto put up a demonic chakra barrier up around his home, and immediately took both girls to his bed to ravage their bodies at his own pleasure. Hinata didn't complain since she went first while Haku got the shadow clone, as she loved how Naruto took her like the jackhammer he was, and would be limping for some time. Haku of course would be in a similar boat, but didn't care either, as she was with Naruto, and loved him for all that he had given her. Hiyashi-san is going to wonder what has become of his daughter Naruto-kun. You think we should tell him? Said Haku, as she kissed her lover's chest, and he wrapped his arms protectively over her from. If he doesn't know already, I'll tell him, and make sure he can't take her away from me, said Naruto, as he kissed Haku's forehead, and loved how she moaned to his touch. Can I join you? Said Hinata, as she came in naked, and slipped into the other side of the bed to snuggle up to Naruto. What's this? The Hyuga heiress hasn't tried to take you in your helpless position. The world might be coming to an end, said Haku, as she saw Hinata blush before swatting Haku on the shoulder, and then looked up at Naruto now chuckling at her actions. Now behave yourself, Hinata-chan. You don't want me to tie you up and spank your ass to discipline you, right? Said Naruto, as Hinata let out an eep, and blushed an even deeper shade of red when she felt Naruto now cupping her very sensual rear end. I don't know, Naruto-kun. I think Hinata-chan likes getting spanked by you, and wouldn't mind you doing so later, right Hinata-chan? Said Haku, as she saw Hinata continue to push the color boundaries for different kinds of red, and it made Naruto laugh further. Don't tease Hinata-chan too much, Haku-chan, or you'll be teased over the fact you have a secret sweet spot along your hip, said Naruto, as his words were silenced quickly by Haku kissing Naruto on the lips with tongue. Damn it, I missed out on some teasing material, thought Hinata, as she would have to talk to Naruto later, and hopefully he'll tell her to balance the teasing playing field. You're being naughty, Haku-chan. I may have to spank you instead and let Hinata-chan watch, said Naruto, as he smiled at Haku, and the girl blushed at the thought before glaring at Hinata currently smiling devilishly back while Naruto cupped her ass too. Naruto-kun, will there be any other women in your life that you would like to be a part of your slowly growing family? Said Hinata, as she knew that some of the girls her age, and roughly around it had thought of Naruto in a new light. It all depends on the girls, Hinata-chan. I mean, there is Anko-chan because she is like in some ways, and she is really smoking hot. Tamari because she's strong, and is the master of her affinity for wind like I am despite my massive usage of shadows. Then there is Tenten, who has a thing for swords, and has a killer figure behind that strong drive. I also would like to get to know Inuzuka Hana better since I saw her take care of a young fox once before helping it back into the wild, said Naruto, as he grinned at the idea of getting them all together, and telling them about how he was interested in getting to know them better. "As long they make you happy, I'll support you, and so will Hinata-chan," said Haku, as she kissed him again, and Hinata followed after in kissing Naruto too. "That's good to hear. Thank Haku-chan." "Hinata-chan," said Naruto, as he pulled them closer to his body by their rears, and loved how they squealed out in surprise. "Aren't you tired, Naruto-kun?" said Hinata, as she felt his manhood calling for more fun, and was surprised he could handle two women so easily. "So naive you are, Hinata-chan. When I gave myself to Naruto-kun for the first time, he had so much stamina that I passed out before he even finished, and still kept going with an orgasm being my wake-up call." What a wake-up call it was, said Haku, as she felt what Hinata felt, and even though she was still sore, she wasn't about to deny Naruto his much-needed relief. "Oh my," thought Hinata, as she was soon kissed passionately by Naruto, and the massage he was giving her rear end made her moan out in pleasure. Inner Hinata was jumping for joy. "Don't forget, Kit, we soon had to deal with the Hyuga girl's family and a certain fate-believing cousin of hers to further prevent any harm that he may try to unleash upon her further," said Kyuubi, as he remembered Naruto using his shadow powers to see into Hinata's mind concerning her family. It seemed even after getting stronger, Neji still hated Hinata, and Hiyashi, while slightly more proud of his daughter, wanted to make Hanabi his heiress. "I'll deal with that family problem soon enough. But for now, let me have some pleasure before I handle interrelations with the Hyuga clan," thought Naruto, as he moaned out in pleasure when he felt two very special tongues now on his erection, and he knew that his business with the clan would be for a while. A long while. Naruto walked down the road from his home to that of the Hyuga clan compound, as he had important business to attend to regarding Hinata father, cousin, and the elders there that made everything so miserable. He had no real take on Hinata's old man, but Naruto knew that Hiyashi thought little of her in the beginning, and Neji thought even less, if what he learned of his actions during the Chunin exam prelims several years ago was any indication of Hinata. That was going to change. Now, Naruto walked up to the main entrance of the large clan home and saw two branch family guards looking at him with their Byakugan eyes trying to see through his Shadow Fox outfit that had intimidated so many others. However, due to his chakra being so intense, it was looking up at the sun with a magnifying glass the size of a watermelon, and made the two Hyuga look away in pain. "I'm here to see Hyuga Hiyashi and Hyuga Neji," said Naruto, as he saw the two glare at him, and seemed to be determined not to let him through, and that made the young ninja smile further. "You are an uninvited guest, sir. Leave now or else," said the Hyuga branch member to Naruto's right, and the Namikaze gave a fake look of surprise. "Sir? Did you just call me sir?" "No. Get out of here, demon brat." "No. We will use you for gentle fist practice if you look at this place again, monster." "Why the change? Could it be because I am now the head of the Namikaze clan and you are now actually beneath me? Or, is it because of my powers that can maim, disfigure, and ultimately break the two of you into tiny little pieces?" said Naruto, as he saw the guards tense up, and the Namikaze knew it was the latter of the two choices. "It always was. We are trying to be respectful, Namikaze-sama," said the Hyuga branch member to Naruto's left, and the Namikaze shook his head in disagreement. "You're lying. I know you're lying because your shadows speak what you do not. You hate my guts, but you know you can't kill me because of my clan, and because you're too weak to so much as lay a hand on me. Though that's to be expected from those that just submit to fate, being its little bitch, and making excuses like all weak branch members do," said Naruto, as he saw both guards look at him with intense rage, and had to fight back using their eyes again, knowing it would only hurt them. "You have a lot of nerve saying that," said the Hyuga branch member on the right of Naruto, and the Namikaze just smiled beneath his mask. "I know I do. I also know that you have to stand there and take it like the weak pieces of branch member shit that you both are," said Naruto, as he felt the killer intent from the two, but barely felt anything since he had been around it all his life, and just shook it off like a minor annoyance. "You should be careful of your words, Namikaze-sama. Insultingness like this will," said the Hyuga branch member on Naruto's right, but was stopped when Naruto generated an enormous amount of chakra that swirled around him while howling in the wind like some angry beast before stopping. "You will not cause me any trouble. I can stand here insulting your lifestyle until the two of you collapse on the ground, crying like little babies, and not receive any form of harsh punishment for it. You want to know why? Because you two are nothing. You are weak, spineless, branch members of the Hyuga clan, and can do nothing without the approval of the main family. Now I came here to see Hyuga Hiyashi and Hyuga Neji because the Hyuga clan has important business to discuss with me regarding Hyuga Hinata. Now either you two let me through willingly or I beat you both within an inch of your pathetic lives to see them? Choose wisely, said Naruto, as he saw the two look at each other, and then the one on the Namikaze's left opened the door for him to enter. Please forgive us for our attempts to block you from important clan business, Namikaze-sama, said the Hyuga branch member, as he saw Naruto look at him, and could swear on his eyes that the Namikaze was grinning a feral grin under that mask. No promises, said Naruto, as he walked into the Hyuga compound, and set out to find Hinata's asshole cousin along with the girl's possibly still an asshole father. Konoha Hospital. Hitaki Kakashi had a killer headache, as he woke up to the sound of guys storming into his room shouting about the flames of youth, and using them to revive his fallen rival. However, being the patient man he was, Kakashi used his old tactics to make the man redirect his efforts outside of the hospital into the village populace, and while that is considered cruel, it was a necessary evil. Recovering nicely, I see, said Tsunade, as she saw Kakashi get out of bed, and clutching his skull in pain before catching the bottle of aspirin the woman threw at him. Not really. The headache is the least of my problems. What happened with Sasuke and Naruto? Said Kakashi, as he had been knocked out by Naruto, and had no idea what happened earlier. Sasuke's dead. Hitaki. Naruto killed him, said Tsunade, as she told him what happened, and how Naruto had every intention of wiping out the very existence of the Uchiha clan from the village forever. Well, it's not like it wasn't bound to happen, said Kakashi, as he walked to the window of his hospital room, and looking out at the village with sorrow. You're taking this better than I thought, said Tsunade, as she expected Kakashi to go into a rage, or some kind of crying fit over the loss of the Uchiha. I'm used to this, Tsunade. I've lost my father, my sensei, and in a way I lost two of my original 3 students, with the third being the true failure of what was once Team 7, said Kakashi, as he found Sakura barely training at all, and only made it through the Chunin exams because her teammates did most of the work for her. That and his lack of training her didn't help much either. Well, there is no doubt that Sakura is going to raise a screaming fit when she hears about it, said Tsunade, as she could see it now, and wondered what Sakura was going to do when she faced Naruto. If she got to face him, that is. Let her complain all she wants. It makes no difference to me. What was I even thinking when I agreed to be Team 7's sensei? Said Kakashi, as he ran a hand through his gravity-defying hair, and wondered if he could ever mend the rift with Naruto. In Kakashi's mind, he had a much better chance of winning against Kyuubi and the ever-fearsome Shinigami at the same time. Hyuga compound. Hyuga Hiyashi was many things, but afraid was not one of them, as he stared into the masked eyes of the intimidating shadow fox that was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and wondered if he should feel afraid. It was always difficult to support the boy when he was younger, but his loyalty to Minato also made it difficult not to support him, and then there was Hinata to consider with her feelings for the demon vessel. Hiyashi had known about Hinata's feelings for Naruto for quite some time when she came home when she was 5 years old, with just 2 months left before the girl's mother died shortly after bringing little Hanabi into the world. It had been a long time since then, but Hiyashi still remembered how happy Hinata was when she told both her parents about a blonde-haired kid with shiny blue eyes, and how he protected her against some mean kids at the playground. The girl's mother was tired, but even in her weakened state, Hyuga Hitomi had a smile on her face, and told Hinata that she met someone very special. Hinata didn't know how Naruto was special, but the girl's mother just smiled, and told her that one day she would understand why he was. Hiyashi knew Hitomi had a good judge of character, even when the elders did not, with the clinging to old traditions that did not bend to the times, and he remembered how his wife begged him not to have Hisashi go even if the man wanted to. That without Hisashi, the man's only son Neji would hate the main family, and take it out on someone that didn't deserve it. Namely Hinata. And she was right. She was always right. She foresaw the paranoia of keeping the secret of our eyes would lead to a dividing of the family. Strange how my father forbid me from being with her, yet my mother defied him all the same, and made sure we were together when we fell in love, thought Hiyashi, as he wondered what his wife would think of him now, and if she would be ashamed of him for raising Hinata like he did. Who was Hiyashi kidding? Hitomi would have destroyed him without question, and he would have deserved every second of that beating. Speaking of beatings, you know why I am here? Said Naruto, as he saw Hiyashi nod slightly, and motioned for the branch member in the room to retrieve Neji. I know Hinata was with you yesterday. She had always cared about you, even when she learned the truth, and still held you close to her heart. After what happened at the prelims of the Chunin exams, I tried to be a better father to Hinata, but I still failed horribly, and came to the realization that I was too late to do anything, said Hiyashi, as he had a sad look in his eyes, and Naruto could tell the man regretted his actions. He was lucky that Hanabi had not followed in the way of the elders. And Neji, said Naruto, as he saw Hiyashi flinch, and look away ashamed at his utter failure in being the loving uncle to his twin brother's son. He believes that fate rules all things. Ever since he beat Hinata, even with her use of the cage bird seal to make him pay for insulting you. My dear nephew still hates Hinata, and the rest of the main family, said Hiyashi, as he had tried to find some way to deal with Neji's hate, but there seemed to be no way to stop it, and the clan head seemed hesitant to hand Neji the letter meant for the boy that was written by Hisashi. Why hadn't he done it sooner? Maybe he was afraid. I'll deal with him myself, said Naruto, as he heard the door open behind him, and Neji stepped in unaware of who it was Hiyashi was speaking to at the moment. You wish to see me, Hiyashi-sama? Said Neji, as he saw Hiyashi looking at him with his traditional cold Hyuga look, and had to hold back the anger that threatened to show on his own face. Yes, Neji. There is someone here to see you and is a good friend of my daughter Hinata, said Hiyashi, as he saw Neji scowl slightly at his daughter's name, and then turned his head to the masked man with his back turned to the Hyuga branch member. Great, another weak fool, who no doubt is displeased with me over how I treated Hinata-sama, and wishes to threaten my life. How pathetic, thought Neji, as he walked up to the masked figure, who still had his back turned to the Hyuga branch member, and had yet to turn to face him. You've caused Hinata-chan a great deal of pain, Hyuga Neji, said Naruto in a whispery voice before turning to face Neji, and the Hyuga boy's eyes widened in disbelief. You, said Neji in shock, as he took a step back, and was going to prepare for some kind of defense against the Shadow Fox. When Naruto struck first with a palm strike to the Hyuga branch member's chest. The attack, however, did not send Neji flying through the room like it would have done normally with anyone else doing it, but instead covered the boy in shadow, and the two instantly were transported away to who knows where in a shadowy flash of light. Hiyashi's eyes widened at that and instantly thought of Minato with his Hiraishin jutsu, though this was clearly different. Naruto is his father's son, and there's not a shinobi anywhere else in all of the elemental countries that I'd trust to make Hinata happy, thought Hiyashi, as he would inform Hinata privately of his approval of her being with Naruto, and that he was proud of her no matter what. Something he should have done from the start. Chunin Exam Stadium. The instant the two materialized in the arena, Neji felt the force of the blow send him flying along the dirt some 15 to 20 feet before stopping, and struggled to get up from the ground. The instant he did, Neji felt like he had been hit with a sledgehammer to his stomach before taking multiple hits in rapid succession, and found himself being treated like Rock Lee's training post. How does it feel, Hyuga Neji? How does it feel to be treated like trash? That is how you viewed Hinata-chan because she was in the main family, but did you ever consider that perhaps she didn't wish for you to have it, and would switch places with you to take away your pain? No. You had to be a baka and try to humiliate her for trying to grow a spine that in the long run would have freed you from that misery currently symbolized on your forehead, said Naruto, as he landed a few more hits on the boy's stomach before taking a hold of the skull of his enemy, and viciously slamming Neji into the ground. Naruto's ruthlessness in combat are true just like the stories say he is, thought Neji, as he was lifted up again by the same hand on his skull that slammed him into the ground, and now stared into the metal mask that could be the last thing he ever saw. I should kill you right now just for looking at Hinata-chan with your hate-filled eyes. I should tear you apart piece by piece for hurting her in the Chunin exam preliminaries just like the pathetic piece of branch family trash that you are. However, if I do that to you, then Hinata-chan will be sad, and I can't have that at all. So this is how things will play out from now on. You're going to be the nice loving cousin that should have been protecting Hinata-chan from day fucking one. This fight never happened. After I heal you, go find your cousin in a few days, get on your knees, and beg for forgiveness saying you had a sudden revelation that you could not ignore. If you don't, I will hunt you down, and then I will destroy you. Understand? said Naruto, as he heard Neji barely gasp out a yes, before dropping the defeated boy onto the ground, and swarmed his shadow powers over him. Within moments, Neji was fully healed, and upon waking up saw Naruto walking away without so much as a word to him. Like the beating never happened. Konoha streets moments later. People gave Naruto a wide gap to walk through, as he made his way through the streets that long ago were stained with his blood on more than one occasion from various mob attacks and fox hunts that were held on his birthday. The looks of hatred, the joy the people had in making him suffer for something that wasn't his fault boiled his blood, and the killer intent he was unleashing from it made many people sweat heavily. Calm yourself, Kit. The more killer intent you generate, the more you give all of them a reason to hate you further, and we both know the younger generation don't deserve that, said Kyuubi, as he saw his vessel's mental appearance frown at him, and then tone it down slightly. Perhaps, but that doesn't mean I can't mess with the previous generation, and let them know what I think of their righteous justice against me, thought Naruto, as he walked through the streets, and entered a random store that years ago would kick him out in a heartbeat. The store owner, a rather middle-aged man, now looked at the Namikaze boy with fear, and his customers quickly left in a hurry, leaving just the two of them in the store. Namikaze-sama, what an honor it is to see you here in my store. What can I get you here today? Said the man, as he bowed submissively to Naruto, who years ago would have been beaten within an inch of his life, and told never to set foot in the store ever again. Don't try sucking up to me, Baka. The late Uchiha Sasuke may have enjoyed it, but I do not, and I feel insulted that you would show me such a false display of respect. You want to know what you can get me today in your store? I'll tell you what you can give me. You can give me much-needed vengeance, said Naruto, as he grinned behind his mask, and the owner of the store began whimpering like a little child while backing up into a corner. Oh, the irony that was surrounding the two right now. 20 minutes later, Naruto left the now wrecked store, leaving a bloody, beat up, and quite possibly dying store owner to his thoughts about the revelations of years past. The fight wasn't quiet either, as Naruto knew that people saw and heard the beating like so many had heard when he was being beaten as a child. And similar to Naruto's own, no one came to help the store owner from his beating, and the Anbu only came when it was over. A little example to the masses, Naruto-kun, said Anko, as she came out of the alley, and smirked at him that screamed, why? I saw you do no less upon someone who tried to have his way with you years ago, and thought you were drunk at your favorite dango shop. Remember? Said Naruto, as he was 11 years old when it happened, and saw Anko beat the crap out of the man that thought she was defenseless enough to have a quickie without her consent. Touché. By the way, speaking of my favorite food dango, how would you like to have some with me, Naruto-kun? I will even pay for whatever it is you order, said Anko, as she saw Naruto look at her for a moment, and then nod before following her to the place of somewhat solitude. Knowing my reputation, Anko-chan, you'll get everything on the house, and the manager will be begging me not to rip him a new asshole, said Naruto, as he saw Anko blush, and rubbed the back of her head sheepishly, since that would most likely be the case. With the two walking together through Konoha to Anko's favorite place to eat, they got strange looks from people, and wondered what Orochimaru's failed student was doing with the Namikaze demon vessel. As for Anko herself, she felt her body slightly heating up from being close to this dangerous figure, and could feel the awesome power behind the metal fox mask that Naruto wore. The boy had killed the Uchiha prick, put Kakashi in his place, put the councils down like the little bitches they were, and killed Danzo in the short time he returned to Konoha. The memory was still fresh in Anko's mind and sent shivers of her spine every time it came up. So Anko-chan, how have you been while I was away from Konoha? I know the people here in Konoha hate you almost as much as they do me, said Naruto, as he saw Anko nod in agreement, and told him about how the village just seemed to get worse in terms of arrogance until he showed up. The assholes here suspected after the failed invasion years ago that I was in league with Orochimaru of all people, and it was how he was able to put his plan into motion to take down Konoha. Can you believe it? Said Anko, as she had the Sandame on her side, and he personally told the councils that she was one of his most trusted shinobi in the Leaf. If he hadn't been around to vouch for her, well, Anko didn't want to think about it. That they would suspect you of being a secret spy for Orochimaru? Yes. That they were right to think so? Hell no, said Naruto, as the two sat down at the dango shop with the people there scrambling, and the owner immediately let the food be on the house. Looks like you were right, Naruto-kun, said Anko, as she ordered a large pile of dango for the both of them, and Naruto smiled under his mask. Meaning the next time we go someplace and they don't give us the food for free. You're buying, said Naruto, as he chuckled at Anko's face fault upon the bar table, and the waterfall of tears. Naruto-kun, how can you be so mean to me? Said Anko in a whiny voice, and Naruto could only laugh at her actions. This coming from the same woman, who I saw years ago put a snake in a certain pink-haired woman's sake bottle, and scared the screechy Haruno into pissing herself silly, said Naruto, as he saw Anko now laugh at that memory, and struggled to order some sake, to go with the dango in the process. Point taken, but in all fairness, Naruto-kun, I only do it to bitchy women, and perverted bakas that like that old guy that writes those dirty books, said Anko, as she heard Naruto laugh at that, and shook his head at the news. That would be Jiraiya of the Sannin, who peeps on women for research purposes, and on occasion gets his ass handed to him for it. He also taught my father, though I think that's ranked second in his proud accomplish list, and the first being his peeping abilities in the hot springs, said Naruto, as he saw Anko laughing with him, and found the snake woman to be a good person to be around just like he knew she would. Well, I'm pleased to be one of the women that caught, and beat the crap out of him for it, said Anko, as she shared some funny moments with Naruto while hanging around Kurenai, and how she terrorized all the genin during the Chunin exams with the Forest of Death. In return, Naruto told her about his time away from Konoha, training constantly when not taking missions once he became known throughout the elemental countries, and finding the life outside of being free from Konoha to be quite enjoyable. Anko found this news very informative, as she knew that people like her and Naruto needed to be away from the places that hated them. Once outside the village, they could breathe easily outside of the suffocating hate that tried to destroy them every day, and be away from all of those arrogant bakas. Naruto, yelled a very unhappy Haruno Sakura, as she had a look of fury in her eyes, and the Namikaze knew why that was. Because Sasuke was dead. You'd think that Sakura would be more quiet, but no, she has to be a bitch, and just shriek out like the banshee she is, thought Naruto, as he turned slightly to see the angry pink-haired Uchiha fangirl. You killed Sasuke-kun. I've been looking everywhere for you since it happened to get answers, and here I find you're eating dango with this snake whore. Like all is well with the world, said Sakura, as she was about to stomp over there, and pound Naruto into paste like she did when they were younger. First, Sasuke Teme was an asshole, who only had a thing for the same gender as him, and while you were somewhat close to that regard, it just wouldn't have appealed to him unless you had the necessary thing downstairs. Second, Anko-chan is not a snake whore, and if you call her that again, you'll regret it, said Naruto, as he flexed his hands before they became fists, and made popping sounds after being closed tightly in the process. I don't know why the councils didn't order your execution, you monster, but I'll gladly do it to avenge Sasuke-kun, and rid the village of your taint, said Sakura, as she pulled out a kunai, and charged at him with the intent to kill. How bothersome, Earth-style. Imperial Wall Jutsu, said Naruto before slamming his right foot down hard, and created a wall of solid rock several feet behind him that Sakura painfully ran into with the imprint of it showing the proof she did. Now that was just pathetic, said Anko, as she sweat dropped at Sakura's poor display of skill, and wondered if she should speak to Tsunade about being a temporary instructor to the wannabe female shinobi of the leaf. Agreed. Oh, look at the time, I have to go and deal with some other business that needs to be taken care of. See you later, Anko-chan, said Naruto, as he left to speak to Inuzuka clan matriarch, and possibly the woman's only daughter. Thanks, Naruto-kun. Sweet guy, maybe next time if he's interested, we can. Hey, said Anko, as she realized that all the dango gone, and the bottle of sake was now empty. And Naruto was now nowhere in sight. That clever Gaki used the incident with fangirl McPinky to take everything and then just leave me holding the bag. Granted, I don't have to pay for the dango this time, but that's besides the point. I think I'm in love, thought Anko, as she finally found someone who could stand up to her crazy tendencies, and not be so afraid that he runs off pissing his pants. She made a mental note to pay Naruto a visit at his house to possibly have a little fun. Kumo at the moment. Yugito was tired of hiding out in Kumo, though the word of choice should be changed from hiding out to that of being restrained by the order of the Raikage. There was an organization after her for the Nibi, and Yugito felt that by being in Kumo that she would be an easier target to hit. The Raikage, however, thought differently, saying that with her, and Killer Bee in Kumo with him, they were well protected from this Akatsuki organization. He told them that they were staying Kumo and that his word was final in that regard. It's not like Yugito could say no, considering her seal that he used on her like a leash on his prized pet. The only reason Killer Bee didn't have one on him was because he was the Raikage's brother and his loyalty to the bastard was unquestionable. I know you hate this kitten, and I do too. If I could find a way to remove the seal from your body, I would have done so years ago, but there is a failsafe in place with my own seal, and needs to be handled by a seal master of the highest quality, said Nibi, as she had tried to find a way to destroy that seal on her vessel. But the seal that imprisoned the demonic cat had a heavy barrier around her to prevent such a connection to the damn thing. The only way to remove it would be to seek out that seal master Jiraiya of the Sannin, thought Yugito, as her answer to this problem was in a rival village, and one that was currently at war with the leaf-like Iwa. Or the Shadow Fox. From what rumors we've heard about him, I think he could be at the same level as Jiraiya, if not surpassing the old Sannin in terms of seals, and seems to sympathize with demon vessels like you, said Nibi, as Yugito had heard the rumors for the past 3 years of the Shadow Fox helping those that suffered, and earning a great deal of respect from various influential people. That's all well and good, Nibi, but there is one problem. How do we call him? Thought a slightly irritated Yugito, as she wished to be free from the Raikage, and Kumo in general, since she found it difficult to live in this place that didn't appreciate her. It was just an idea, kitten. How you reach him is entirely up to you, said Nibi, as she knew that Yugito was forbidden to have a summons, and send out messages unless the Raikage approved it. Oh joy, thought Yugito, as she sighed at the lack of ideas in which to use the plan the Nibi had proposed to reach the Shadow Fox. Konoha. Sometime later, Naruto walked through the streets deep in thought, as he tried to find Inuzuka Sume in regards to her daughter, but the woman was nowhere to be found, and the Namikaze boy decided to hold off in searching for either Inuzuka for the moment. Pleasure aside, Naruto had to focus on the business aspect of his time in Konoha since he was getting paid to be here, and it would be bad for business if he didn't think about his mission to defeat his shared enemies of the leaf. First off was Orochimaru, since the Sannin had been plotting to get Sasuke for some time after the failed attempt at defection, but with the Uchiha dead now, the hubby would take his anger out on the one responsible for that happening. Next was the infamous Akatsuki organization, which had been active in tracking down their prey for the last 3 years, and would not doubt redirect their resources at him now regarding Kyuubi. Nothing really new there. Finally, Naruto realized that Iwa and Kumo were going to be a pain in the ass afterwards, with Iwa wanting his head for being a Namikaze while Kumo would go after Hinata for her eyes. Why did Konoha have to put a pre-verbal target on its back that said, "We are taking on all comers"? Hey, stop right there. Come back here, you bad dog, said a female voice, with the sound of barking being heard behind Naruto, who upon turning saw Inuzuka Hana chasing after a rather roguish dog not wanting to have a bath or its shots. The said dog that upon setting its eyes on Naruto stopped running and submitted in front of the young shinobi's imposing form. "Having animal troubles with your unruly dog?" said Naruto, as he saw Hana panting for breath from running after the mutt, and saw how the damn animal gave up running after seeing the Namikaze. "Sort of. He needs his shots, but at this rate I might just castrate the damn baka, and do it in front of the other animals to teach them not to run," said Hana, as she finally saw who it was she had been talking to, and was slightly afraid of him. "Something wrong, Hana-chan?" said Naruto, as he removed his mask, and smiled at the Inuzuka woman currently blushing up a storm. "I was trying to stop the dog and," said Hana, as she felt her body heating up, and felt the need to mate with the handsome man in front of her. "I see. When you get off from work, stop by the Namikaze estates, and we can talk later in order to get to know each other better," said Naruto, as he put on his mask, and then walked away with a still jaw-dropped Hana behind him. Training ground number 5. Tenten was sparring by herself today, as she felt the need to avoid Lee with shouts of youthfulness, and Neji was nowhere to be found to possibly even ask to train. It was times like these that training helped Tenten with thoughts that puzzled her, and right now her thoughts were on Naruto's return. She had never really bonded with him before or after the academy, but she knew of him by reputation, and silently liked how his pranks made her laugh. What she didn't get was why people called him a monster, demon, and other hate-filled names until after the retired Sandaime made the announcement years ago before the Chunin exams. She never blamed Naruto for what the Kyuubi did, as the boy had never asked to have the demon sealed inside of his body, and the Namikaze had received the shaft end of life since the beginning of his birth. She had asked her father about what he thought of Naruto, but the man seemed unable to answer the question, and Tenten wondered if her own father hated Naruto while only coming around because he was the son of the Yondaime? Regardless of how her father felt, Tenten held no ill will towards Naruto, and would like to be his friend if not more in the future if things progressed that far. She had to admit being a few years older than her, Naruto was quite handsome and strong with his still unknown powers. The idea of the two training together was very appealing since Tenten wanted to see if Naruto was good with weapons like Hinata claimed he was when she saw him in Wave Country after summoning that shadow sword of his to kill the Kumo shinobi there. Training hard I see, said Naruto, as he saw Tenten become startled by his voice while throwing a shuriken that flew wide, hit a few trees, then directed itself into the village, and hit some poor bastard in the rear carrying a tray of angry crabs. That never happened, said Tenten, as she wasn't about to have a perfect throwing score be tarnished by his interference, and heard Naruto chuckling at her actions. Agreed, though I'm more interested in your sword skills over the throwing kind, said Naruto, as he brought out his sword using the shadows, and saw Tenten's eyes widen at the crimson-black Nodashi-class sword with a fox skull on the hilt with crimson gems along the eyes. Whoa, now that's a really nice sword, thought Tenten, as she saw the deadly beauty the sword possessed, and wished she had one like that herself. Ready Ten-chan, said Naruto, as he readied his blade, and saw a slightly blushing Tenten summon hers before getting into her own sword stance. Ready, said Tenten, as she stared at Naruto's masked face, and waited for him to move against her. Brace yourself, said Naruto quietly, as he waited for the leaf that was slowly falling in the space between them, and when it touched the ground, the two fought. The two went at the other with quick precision and fierce determination, with Tenten still trying to land a few hits on Naruto while Naruto himself didn't show any signs of slowing down. If anything, Naruto was holding back quite a bit against Tenten, though he did land a few cuts to signify he had gotten her a couple of times, and was pleased at how strong her skills were. He's good, very good, thought Tenten, as she had tried on multiple times to fake right or left to land a clear hit on Naruto, but the Namikaze was too good, and pushed her back easily. Your skills are quite good, Ten-chan. A few more years of hardcore sword training and you might be a threat to me in terms of swordplay, said Naruto, as he saw Tenten look at him with anger in her eyes, and apparently didn't like the might be a threat in terms of swordplay line that. Hence why she was coming at Naruto faster, harder, and trying to remove his sword from hand before taking his head clean off his neck. What did I tell you, kid, about upsetting women with swords? Said Kyuubi, as he saw Naruto easily dodge, duck, block, and counter Tenten's moves faster than before. That it's unhealthy, thought Naruto, as he moved behind Tenten, and kicked her in the back while she was moving forward in mid-swing that caused the bun-haired girl to stumble before she turned around to glare at him. I'm not weak, said Tenten, as she saw Naruto tilt his head to the right before removing his mask, and the weapons girl had to fight back the blush that wanted to appear on her face. I never said you were Ten-chan. You took my words out of context. Not surprising since you are not the first to do that, said Naruto, as put away his sword, and was now in front of her now blushing face with a smile that made the girl weak in the knees. He's so hot, thought Tenten, as she felt her body slowly burning up, and a part of her mind was actually screaming out for her to kiss him. Tell you what, since I am impressed with your skills, I wish to invite you to my home at the Namikaze Estates for additional training, said Naruto, as he saw Tenten nod, and he knew that she couldn't trust her own words. Additional training? From a Namikaze clan member? Thought Tenten, as she was now so shocked and excited by the prospect of this news that she kissed Naruto on the lips. Before she realized what she was doing and jumped away blushing before apologizing repeatedly for kissing him while Naruto's face had mischievous look to it. It's all right, Ten-chan. Though I do wish to thank you now for the kiss. I look forward to possibly having more of them with you later after our training sessions, said Naruto, as he put his mask back on, and disappeared with the blushing girl feeling so embarrassed right now. Yosh. Tenten, I have just finished 20 miles worth of run, and I wanted to know if said Lee, as he was instantly attacked by Tenten, and was getting beaten up by the red-faced girl. Nothing happened, you hear me? Nothing happened, yelled Tenten, as she unleashed her fists of fury upon the poor boy, and left the now almost dead-looking body of Rock Lee there. But I don't even know what happened, thought Lee, as he tried to get up off the ground, but collapsed back on the ground, and wished to know what brought on Tenten's violent behavior. Konoha streets. Naruto was walking to his next destination when he felt a blast of weak killer intent and he sighed knowing who it was that shot it at him. Turning around he saw an angry Sakura with an adult-sized diaper-like band-aid on her forehead looking at him with the look to kill. Here we are again. If I didn't know any better Haruno, I would suspect you don't like me for doing the world a favor, and killing your precious Sasuke-kun? Said Naruto, seeing the Haruno seething with rage and was stomping towards him like she did when they were younger. I am going to kill you, said Sakura, as she attempted to slash at him with her kunai, but Naruto easily dodged it, and after a few more lousy attempts the Namikaze grabbed the arm before breaking it. Get this through your thick skull, Haruno. You can't defeat me. You are so weak that I could defeat you back when we were first starting out. If you ever come at me again, I'll kill you, and leave your bloody corpse at your parents' front door. Got it, said Naruto, as he let loose his own blast of killer intent at Sakura that knocked the pink-haired banshee into unconsciousness, and the Namikaze walked away without another word. Naruto got about 2 blocks down when he stopped at sensing a presence that did not belong in Konoha, and the Namikaze narrowed his eyes before looking at the direction he felt the unwanted guest's current location. It seemed that his mission regarding Konoha's many enemies that he shared with them was happening a bit early, and while this wasn't unexpected, it was also unwelcome. Naruto originally wanted to deal with Orochimaru first since the man was responsible for so many things wrong with the world today, but it seemed Kami had different plans for him, and these 2 bakas that were now here in Konoha had to be dealt with. With that in mind, Naruto walked towards the source of the chakra signatures he felt, and sure enough saw the 2 members of the organization that wished to hunt him down for the fox. Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. It's been a long time, Itachi. Do you hate me for killing your weak brother? Said Naruto, as he was sure Itachi would have learned of it, and wished to seek him out for some form of revenge. No, Sasuke had his chance to see past the hate, but gave in to it anyway, and had to die like the others, said Itachi, as he activated his eyes, but frowned when he felt them being blocked, and found this to be very disturbing. What's wrong, Itachi? Does he have the Kyuubi in him or not? Said Kisame, as he saw Itachi trying to see the chakra signature of the Kyuubi, and was surprised when the man didn't respond back right away. Let me save you the trouble, Itachi. I don't need you hurting yourself so soon into our fight. To answer the question running through your minds, as well as your organization's mind, I am proud to say that Kyuubi is very much alive, and I have every intention of keeping him alive to help kick your ass into hell, said Naruto, as he unleashed a monstrous wave of chakra that shocked his 2 foes, and basically alerted every single leaf shinobi in the village. His power is incredible. Such strength was only seen in the Yondaime, and even now the boy is barely working up a sweat, thought Itachi, as he now began to sweat heavily at the chakra output Naruto was producing, and seeing Kisame take a step back spoke volumes to him too. Kisame may be crazy, but he wasn't suicidal. What's wrong, Itachi? I thought you wanted to capture me for the fox in my stomach? Did you change your mind? Well, too bad. After I kill you, I'm killing the rest of your little boy band group, and wiping out the Uchiha name from the world, said Naruto, as he created a black crimson Rasengan, and charged forward at the 2 members of the infamous Akatsuki. Itachi move, said Kisame, as he knocked Itachi back while getting his sword out, and paid for it with Naruto hitting the former mist shinobi with his attack. Shadow Fox style. Shadow Crimson Rasengan, said Naruto, as Kisami's stomach was obliterated before the rest of the man was turned into black powder that vanished into the wind. Damn it, I need to escape before it's too late, thought Itachi, as he tried to run, but found himself cut off by a large dome of ice mirrors that now surrounded him, with the masked female figure holding senbon needles ready to fire, and before Itachi could even move he was struck with dozens of needles on various pressure points of his body. You are not going anywhere, Uchiha Itachi, said Haku venomously, as she felt Naruto's chakra spike easily, and knew that someone very strong was out to slay him. Not on her watch. Agreed, said Naruto, as he was behind Itachi, and instantly stabbed him from behind with his nodashi with the blade coming out the front of Itachi's right side through the lung. After twisting the blade, Naruto pulled his sword out to let Itachi's body hit the ground, and to make sure the man was dead the Namikaze thrust the tip of his sword into the man's skull. With his task done, Naruto nodded to Haku, who deactivated her bloodline, and revealed a small army of Anbu with the Hokage along with Jiraiya ready for a fight. You're late, though with the past history the Anbu had with me and the villagers. That is no real surprise, said Naruto, as put away his sword, walked over to Kisami's own weapon, picked it up with ease, and walked away with Haku beside him. He still hates us, said Jiraiya, as he walked over to Itachi's body, and saw that the man was dead though he wondered where Kisami's body was. Can you blame him? I've gone over Sensei's reports with the Anbu myself. Delays in rescues from mob beatings, ignoring guard duty with the boy, and even attempts by some of the Anbu themselves, said Tsunade, as she had tore those teens that did all that new assholes, and made an example out of them for their past sins against the Yondaime's only child. And don't get her started on the medical staff at the hospital, as they too felt the slug princess's wrath, and made them know how it felt to be injured without means to receive medical help when they needed it most. Well, it's not like we can undo all that, but Naruto did do Konoha a favor in killing 2 members of Akatsuki, and some of the stronger members no less. Though I wish it wasn't Itachi that was killed since he one of my secret informants, said Jiraiya, as he sighed at the revelation that one more Uchiha was gone, and would be declared wiped out. What, since when? Said Tsunade, as she grabbed the man by his shirt, and gave him a, "Tell me everything or you're dead," look that made men piss themselves in fear. So Jiraiya told her, minus the pissing himself part, and explained how Itachi was ordered to kill the Uchiha clan to prevent the coup d'état that they were planning. How Itachi went undercover to infiltrate Akatsuki and gather information with the people knowing about Itachi being a spy was a select few. Sarutobi knew that the Shinobi Council gave the order and used it as leverage against them to prevent those old fools from destroying our godson, said Jiraiya, as he saw Tsunade resisting the ever-great desire if not favorite pastime of beating him senseless, and let him go for the moment. He should have used it to get rid of them. I'm going to have a word with that old fool after this is over, said Tsunade, as she knew that if things were different with her in charge during the time frame, then the Shinobi Council would have been removed with younger, and more level-headed people to help her with the leaf. Fortunately, Itachi isn't my only spy contact regarding the organization, and I can still keep track of their activities, said Jiraiya, as he saw Tsunade looking less angry, and for him that was a good thing. Less angry meant less hitting him and possibly less chance of her hitting him down below the belt. I really need a drink, but that can wait for now, said Tsunade, as she looked at Jiraiya, and then in the direction Naruto went before going after the boy to talk to him. Namikaze Estates. Within minutes of Naruto entering his home, Tsunade was at the door, knocking hard to get the boy's attention, and did so since he was currently in a lip-locking moment with Haku. Opening the door, Tsunade had entered, and wished to speak to him in the living room of his home regarding her absence in his life. She was tired of this gap between them with the foundation that should have formed shortly after his birth being non-existent. Why did you leave in the first place? Don't give me that, all of my family died, bullshit since I know you were there when that woman gave birth to me, said Naruto, as he sat down with Tsunade, and Haku along with Hinata sitting beside him to give the much-needed emotional support. I was a coward. Part of me suspected Kushina would run, but I ignored it, and I had actually suspected Jiraiya would live up to his responsibilities in being a godparent if your moth I mean the individual that gave birth to you did not. Even then Naruto, you still had my sensei. But now I see he was as useless as I was back then when around the sight of blood, and regret leaving you here in the village, said Tsunade, as she meant it, and wanted to somehow prove she did. At least you will admit it to my face, Tsunade. The old geezer certainly hasn't been the most groveling of people upon my resurrection, as well as return to Konoha. Not once since I've been back has the Hiruzen come here, begging for my forgiveness, and neither has that perverted teammate of yours. At least you showed you have the balls to come see me and admit you were wrong, said Naruto, as he saw Tsunade nod, and used the silence that followed to let this gap between them slowly close. I sent a letter to the Fire Daimyo telling him about your return and he wants to meet you at the Fire Country capital to discuss some things. He wants to know how to deal with Konoha, as well as possibly making peace with Kumo, and possibly Iwa, though we both know that will only happen when one of the two villages is burned to the ground, said Tsunade, as she saw Naruto nod, and looked up at the ceiling in deep thought. I'll meet him. At least that way, I can possibly have the strongest political ally outside of the Leaf, and could lead to future missions for the man that pay well too, said Naruto, as he saw Tsunade let out a small sigh of relief, and got up to leave. I'll send a messenger bird to him right away. Take care. My godson, said Tsunade, as she left the Namikaze alone with the two girls that loved him, and hoped he could find happiness in Konoha long enough to consider staying in the village. The Leaf needed Naruto more than he needed them.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.